Vol. 2, Chapter 522, Declaration of War. After Tang Xiao and Severance Tan returned to the Endor galaxy, the news swiftly followed that Count Dooku had publicly announced the formation of the Confederation of Independent Galaxies. In line with their previously laid-out battle plans, their military operations kicked off without delay. At the Supreme Military Commander-in-Chief meeting, Tang Xiao, donned in a commanding military uniform, stood at the forefront of the assembly and formally issued the combat order. His voice was resolute, imbued with a sense of gravity that matched the occasion. 13 years ago, I declared that war was inevitable. Now, we stand on the brink of a galactic conflict capable of annihilating planets and extinguishing civilizations. Yet, this is also a crusade for the survival and expansion of our fourth civilization. Our aim is not to vanquish the Galactic Republic, nor to ally with the Confederation of Independent Galaxies. Our quest is for our own domain, to assert the presence of the fourth civilization across the galaxy. We are the fourth cataclysm, not timid kittens. From this day forth, the galaxy shall witness our might. Tang Xiao proclaimed, his fervor lending his features a fierce aspect. The dark force within him surged, sending a palpable shiver through the souls of all present. Today, this very moment, I bring war to us all. It is with great honor that I declare the commencement of this war, he announced, his fist striking the table with a force that echoed his determination. Remember these words. I am a cataclysm. I am a cataclysm, echoed the voices of everyone in the room, including Commander-in-Chief of the Army General Xian Hui, Deputy Commander Lieutenant General Cheng Shitao, Chief of the General Staff Qi Jian, Minister of Military Intelligence Mrs. M, Commander-in-Chief of the Navy Admiral Igor Zavalov, Admiral Matt Horner, and others. Even Severance Tan, who was typically critical of Tang Xiao, regarded him with a newfound seriousness, offering a salute that carried a hint of respect, her eyes betraying a complex mix of emotions. All armies, heed my command, Tang Xiao's voice boomed. Fleet C will secure the Endor galaxy, while all other forces are to engage the Galactic Republic. Fleet A, Matt Horner, present. Initiate Plan B, target the gas planet Bespin. Codename, Operation Explosion. Within a month, I expect all gas factories on Bespin to fuel our civilization with explosive gas, Tang Xiao ordered. Understood. Admiral Xianhui, have the Army's main force support Fleet A's efforts. Eliminate any resistance on Bespin and secure the refineries. Affirmative. Fleet B, Severance Tan, you will split into two groups. The main fleet will station itself on planet Celia to ensure they sign a contract with us, not the Confederation of Independent Galaxies, Tang Xiao instructed. This task seems beneath me. I'll delegate it to a lieutenant. What's my real mission? Severance Tan inquired, her fingers brushing her curly hair aside. You're tasked with a covert operation to uncover information about a secret weapon held by the Galactic Republic. San Hill, chairman of the Interstellar Banking Association, is involved. We must acquire this weapon. My apprentice, Ed Lacatus, will assist you in battle and ensure your safety. This mission is perilous, but remember, I expect you to return alive, Tang Xiao explained. Severance Tan smiled lightly. Worried about me? I wish for all of us to survive the war. You are invaluable, Tang Xiao said, pausing before adding, should death be unavoidable, at least ensure your body is intact and inform me promptly. I will resurrect you. With those words, he stepped back, saluted everyone present, and with a solemn tone, wished, then, I wish you all victory. As the war machine of the fourth civilization roared to life, it was clear that the galaxy was on the cusp of a new era. Tang Xiao's declaration of war was not just a call to arms, but a testament to their civilization's resolve to carve out their destiny among the stars. After a prolonged period of preparation, the moment to act had finally arrived. On May 23, 22 BBY, at 7 p.m. Galaxy Standard Time, the fourth civilization's formidable fleet, comprising 10 Sova-class aircraft carriers, 50 Cole-class battlecruisers, and 10 Higera-class battlecruisers, set forth from the planet Anji, the Eru people's capital. Accompanied by 6 fully loaded Lukrihuk-class battleships, they embarked on a daring journey through the hyperspace channel towards Bespin. 3 hours later, the hyperspace channel stabilized, allowing Fleet B to follow. This contingent included 20 Cole-class battlecruisers, an unspecified number of Higera-class battlecruisers, and 20 Sova-class aircraft carriers, escorting 3 Lukrihuk-class battleships. Their destination was the planet Celia, a notoriously challenging location within the model sector. The choice of Anji as the capital by the Ailu people, despite it not being their origin planet, was strategic. Anji was unique in the model sector for its relatively stable hyperspace channel, a rarity among the sector's planets where hyperspace lanes were notoriously unstable. This instability often caused significant disruptions, especially for large fleets, where even minor course deviations could have catastrophic consequences. Although advances in hyperspace navigation technology had mitigated the risk of fatal outcomes, the threat remained significant. Interestingly, the planet Anji also played a crucial role in the original plot, serving as the main assembly point for the Galaxy Nation's construction of the Death Star II in the Endor galaxy. The Eru people's hostility towards the Fourth Civilization, combined with the strategic importance of Anji, led to the immediate and secret reporting of Fleets A and B's mobilization to the Galactic Republic Strategic Command by intelligence operatives. For the Fourth Civilization, advancing beyond the model sector was a necessary step to secure a broader strategic space. However, this endeavor was far from straightforward. The Galactic Republic had ample time and resources to defend against incursions, particularly towards Bespin. Bespin was of significant strategic importance, not least because of the investments by the Galactic Republic's Yingkang Company and Corellia Engineering Company, both of which held substantial stakes in the region. As one of the Galactic Republic's most crucial sources of blasting gas, any attack on Bespin was bound to be challenging. The Corellian Engineering Company, in particular, with its long history and formidable capabilities, posed a significant obstacle. Tang Xiao's strategy hinged on leveraging the Republic of Geonosis's military might and Severance Tan's covert operations to navigate these challenges. At 4 a.m. on May 24th Galaxy Standard Time, the Fourth Civilization's Fleet A emerged from hyperspace near the gas giant planet Bespin. The local defense fleet, already on high alert, was ready for combat. Without any formalities, a fierce battle ensued upon their encounter. Thus began the Battle of Bespin. Attachment 1 of the Easter egg chapter, a current situation map with the Dawn planet marked by a red circle, Celia labeled as 1, Bespin as 2, and the Geonosian planet as 3. Vol 2, Chapter 523, The Bloody Battle of Bespin 1. On the morning of May 24th, a vast and disorganized fleet emerged from the hyperspace channel, arriving at the planet Dinon. This fleet comprised 18 Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers, 5 Cheer-class assault landing ships, over 80 Carrack-class light cruisers, and more than 200 ships, including CR-70 and Corellia DP-20 gunboats, as well as frigate-class warships. Among the formation, 4 ancient Invincible-class heavy cruisers were noticeable. These cruisers, measuring within 11 meters in length, were designed over 3,000 years ago. Despite being outdated, their ability to enter a planet's atmosphere meant they could still serve a purpose. This fleet, assembled by the Galactic Republic from 5 local defense fleets and supplemented by ships from the now reorganized Grand Republic Navy, had a singular mission: to assault the planet Geonosis, rescue Master Yoda, and liberate the army of 200,000 clones. Aboard the flagship, a Dreadnought-class heavy cruiser, stood Jedi Master Depa Bilaba, clad in a tan robe. Behind her were 2 young girls with blonde hair, looking to be around 15 or 16 years old. Despite their youthful appearance, their beauty and charm were evident. Both had short, shoulder-length hair tied with a bow, unusual for members of the Jedi Order, but allowed due to Depa Bilaba's fondness for them and Master Windu's, the Order's second-in-command, tacit approval. The girls, though similar in appearance, were distinguishable by their robes and demeanor. The taller one, dressed in a blue robe with a matching bow, exuded calmness but remained silent. The shorter one, in a red robe with a red bow, carried herself with confidence and a hint of arrogance. They were Depa Bilaba's apprentices, Luna Dream and Luna Illusionary, the first Force-sensitive individuals from Dawn Planet to be trained by the Jedi Order. Before 27 Buai, Dawn Planet had sent 3 groups of Force-sensitives to the Jedi Order, with the Luna Sisters being the most talented and peculiar among them. Their force abilities were exceptionally strong when they were together, rivaling even Anakin Skywalker's, but diminished to that of ordinary people when separated. After 27 BY, as the Separatist movement grew, Dawn Planet ceased its communications with the Jedi Order, halting the sending of Force-sensitive individuals for training. General, we can no longer proceed along the Hydia hyperspace route. 15 parsecs from here lies the Lantern Galaxy, a region filled with Separatist sympathizers who have installed hyperspace blockers near their planets. Our only option is to take the Corellian trade route, head to the planet Malastar, pass through Naboo, and then proceed to Geonosis. Admiral Wolf Uralin, the fleet's commander, reported respectfully to Depa Billaba. Following a recent decree by Speaker Palpatine, a Jedi Knight serving in the army was granted the rank of general, and in the presence of a general, a Jedi Master's authority was supreme. Thus, Admiral Uralin was under Depa Billaba's command. What's the current situation with the Separatists? Have we received any intelligence from Geonosis? Depa Billaba inquired. The Separatists have launched simultaneous attacks in 17 galaxies and the neutral galaxy Bespin 9. The situation was dire. The Galactic Republic had been attacked by a formidable fleet from the Dawn Planet, leaving their prospects grim. Intelligence personnel had deduced that the Separatist fleet, which had mysteriously vanished from all known battlefronts, was likely redeployed towards Christopher Sis. Wolf Yularen shared this concerning update, his voice heavy with the weight of their predicament. Depa Billaba, however, remained composed. I can sense that Master Yoda and Master Windu are still safe for now. But the tide of war shifts swiftly, and we can't afford any further delays, she stated, her resolve clear. Yularen's brow furrowed in worry. So what should we do? Continue our hyperspace jumps through the Hydia channel. If we encounter any obstructions, I believe I can assist the floor, in breaking through, thanks to the hyperspace theories developed by Master Chorus Sabath. It's a shame he was lost during an expedition, Depa Billaba explained, her tone tinged with sorrow for the fallen master. But if we fail, we might find ourselves encircled by the Separatist fleet, Yularen pointed out, concern lacing his words. Luna Huan, ever the impatient one, interjected. Why all this fuss? If the master says it can be done, then we will succeed. Luna Meng added, with a calm indifference, taking a detour through the Corellian trade route would force our smaller ships to make additional hyperspace jumps and refuel. That would delay us by at least 3 days before reaching Geonosis. Acknowledging their input, Depa Billaba turned to the sisters. While I work on stabilizing the hyperspace path, you both should try to understand how the Force aids in this process. This is the essence of the hyperspace theory I've been teaching you. Bespin, an orange gas giant with a diameter of 11,800 kilometers, harbored a metal core of 6,000 kilometers. Its immense size resulted in extreme pressure and temperature, making it rich in rare elements and vast reserves of gases that could be refined into weapon-grade explosives or conventional spacecraft fuel. However, Bespin's true marvel lay in its life zone, a habitable layer of gas between 150 and 180 kilometers from its surface, where conditions were just right for life to thrive. Discovered by interstellar explorers, the Bespin life zone quickly became a hotspot for mining operations. During the Old Republic era, its primary export was Tabana gas, an efficient coolant for spaceship hyperdrives. Later, a visionary from the Corellian system, Lord Eccles Figo, unlocked even greater potential by extracting blaster ammunition explosive gas from Bespin's endless reserves. Seizing the opportunity, Lord Eccles Figo commissioned the construction of Cloud City, a massive floating metropolis in the Bespin life zone. Over centuries, Cloud City evolved into a luxurious hub of mining, manufacturing, tourism, and leisure, generating immense wealth for Lord Figo's descendants. The success of Cloud City spurred the creation of dozens of floating cities within the life zone, housing a total of 6 million permanent residents. As the city expanded, investment poured in from major corporations like Corellia Engineering and Incon, further enriching Lord Figo's consortium. In recent years, despite the Galactic Republic's political turmoil and the rise of separatism, Bespin remained a silent profiteer, choosing neutrality over taking sides. As the conflict between the Republic and the Separatists escalated, the leadership of Bespin, led by Cloud City, continued to thrive in the shadows, indifferent to the galaxy's strife. Upon declaring its neutrality, planet Bespin could not have anticipated the swift and merciless response from the Dawn planet's fleet. Tang Xiao, the commander of the invading forces, held a clear stance. In the throes of war, neutrality meant little. You were either an ally or an adversary. The strategic significance of Bespin, merely 8 seconds away from the Endor galaxy, made it an irresistible target. Its proximity meant that a large-scale fleet could reach it within hours. Moreover, Bespin's wealth of resources and its prime location at the terminus of the Corellian trade route, the galaxy's most vital hyperspace pathway, made it even more appealing. This route's stability allowed for the smooth passage of large fleets, likening planet Bespin to a treasure trove at the subway line's last stop. Despite being a smaller station with no transfer lines, its location on the route made travel exceedingly convenient. These factors combined to solidify Tang Xiao's decision to seize Bespin. Controlling it would enable the Fourth Civilization's fleet to maneuver in ways the Galactic Republic could hardly predict. The Bespin life belt, within the gas giant's range, offered the perfect cover for concealing fleet movements and blocking communications. Disregarding the original plan set by General Grievous, which was to attack the planet Chrysalister, Tang Xiao redirected his focus towards the neutral Bespin. The planet's garrison and the nearby Galactic Republic defense fleet were quick to respond to the threat. Upon the Dawn planet fleet's emergence from hyperspace, before it could even activate its shields, 150 warships were assembled for a counterattack. Admiral Matt Horner led the charge, commanding from a Salva-class aircraft carrier, the flagship of the Fourth Civilization's Fleet A. Assisting him were 3 Blue Sky-class command ships, ensuring his orders reached every battleship and squadron with precision. The sudden and aggressive move against Bespin underscores the ruthlessness of war strategy under Tang Xiao's leadership. Neutrality, in his view, was not a safeguard against involvement in the galactic conflict, but rather a vulnerability to be exploited. The strategic importance of Bespin, due to its resources and location, made it a critical point of contention, transforming it from a peaceful planet into a battleground for control and supremacy in the galaxy. The assault was launched. Admiral Matt Horner, commander of the Fourth Civilization's A Fleet, took command on the battlefield. He was aboard a Sova-class aircraft carrier, serving as the flagship. Surrounding the aircraft carrier were 3 Blue Sky-class command ships, which assisted in relaying his commands to every battleship and even to each individual team. After centuries of development, Yuncheng had transformed into a luxurious city that combined mining, production, tourism, and vacationing into one seamless experience. This city brought immense wealth to the descendants of Lord Figo year after year. The prosperity of Yuncheng spurred the creation of dozens of floating cities within the Bespin life belt, housing a total of 6 million permanent residents. As the city continued to grow, it attracted more and more investment. Corellia Engineering and Incon emerged as the largest investors outside of Lord Figo's personal consortium, owning a significant portion of the properties in the area. In recent years, the political landscape of the Galactic Republic had become increasingly unstable, with separatism on the rise. Meanwhile, Bespin Planet, led by Yuncheng, thrived in silence, choosing not to take sides. They neither supported the Republic nor paid any heed to the separatist movements. Thus, when the conflict between the two factions erupted, the leadership of Planet Bespin, with Yuncheng at the forefront, declared their neutrality. Attachment 1 of the Easter egg chapter, the Carrack-class light cruiser features a bridge with a massive panoramic porthole. Despite its seemingly impractical design, it offers an excellent view of the surroundings. Attachment 2 of the Easter egg chapter, an image of Bespin's Cloud City. Vol 2, Chapter 524, The Bloody Battle of Bespin, Part 2. In the cosmic expanse surrounding the planet Bespin, the scene was one of utter chaos. Hundreds of warships were engaged in fierce combat, their engines roaring at full capacity. The space was illuminated by the continuous flashes of missiles and lasers, along with the pale blue light emanating from the collapse of space, caused by the detonation of proton torpedoes. Amidst this tumult, swarms of vulture droids buzzed around the Republic fleet like flies, unleashing a barrage of lasers and proton torpedoes. The Republic fleet's Z-95 Headhunter fighters, relying on the DP-20 gunboats for defense, found themselves under intense attack. The DP-20 gunboats, specifically designed to counter small fighter crafts, decimated the vulture droid fighters, turning them into mere space debris. Suddenly, an alert came through. "The enemy's 20 warships are maneuvering to our flank," a radar operator announced urgently. "They're attempting a forced landing in Cloud City. We must block them." Fleet Commander Santa Maria commanded without hesitation. "Have the CR-90 frigate formation launch a salvo at the enemy's flanking warships. Alert the fighters to break formation and intercept." Another report came in, heightening the tension. "We've detected a concentrated energy reaction within the Separatist fleet," a soldier exclaimed. "Those bastards! Do they have secret weapons up their sleeve?" Santa Maria, recalling the recent Battle of Geonosis where Mabel Garson faced similar unknowns, felt a surge of frustration. Moments later, a blinding light erupted behind the Dawn Planet fleet, followed almost immediately by violent explosions tearing through the Republic fleet's largest Corellian defense cruisers. "We've been hit by the enemy's ultra-high-power kinetic energy weapon," came the report. "The Long's shields are overloaded. The Dead Lake has lost contact. Its bridge appears to have been destroyed." In a fit of rage, Santa Maria slammed his fist onto the console. "They've secretly developed such a formidable kinetic weapon. General, unless we redirect all our deflector shield's energy to kinetic protection, we can't withstand their fire. But doing so would leave us vulnerable to their high-power lasers," a technician explained, outlining the grim situation. Another officer chimed in. "The ships flanking us are Higla-class battlecruisers. Their main guns are more powerful than any in our current fleet. We can't risk exposing ourselves to the Higla-class's main artillery. Retreat immediately, disperse the formation, and fall back to Cloud City for defense." Santa Maria ordered decisively, choosing the only viable strategy under the circumstances. Lord Santa Maria, a nobleman from Corellia with a history of service in the Corellian defense fleet, had come to Bespin to oversee his family's business interests. Following the Confederation of Independent Systems' declaration of war against the Galactic Republic and President Shiv Palpatine's subsequent announcement of the Grand Republic Army's formation, he and Miela Figo, the current leader of Cloud City, had resolved to maintain neutrality in the conflict. They demonstrated their commitment to this stance by expelling the Republic's envoy and rejecting overtures from the Confederation, signaling to both parties their intent to remain neutral, open for business, and uninvolved in political disputes. However, their declaration of neutrality was blatantly disregarded by the Separatist fleet, which, within hours of the declaration, set course for Bespin from the planet Anji. The rapid response and clear disregard for Bespin's neutrality prompted Miela Figo to issue a stern warning. To the planet Dawn, while appealing to the Galactic Republic for assistance, the leaders of Bespin took decisive action. They appointed Santa Maria as the commander of Bespin's defenses, aiming to delay the arrival of reinforcements from the Republic. Shortly thereafter, Bespin issued a public declaration, affirming its commitment to safeguarding the unity of the Republic and combating separatism. This declaration came despite their earlier decision to expel the Republic's envoy and maintain neutrality just a few hours prior. The Republic's Strategic Command responded swiftly, establishing a unified command channel with Bespin's defense forces and mobilizing reinforcements to support them. They also shared the location and trajectory of the Separatist fleet, detected by their hyperspace detection station. Aware of the numerical superiority of the enemy, Santa Maria devised a battle plan. He selected 150 of the most powerful and well-conditioned battleships from Bespin's defense forces. Launching a surprise attack when the enemy's shields were down, they managed to inflict damage on 6 Cole-class battlecruisers. However, Santa Maria had underestimated the resilience and combat effectiveness of both the Cole-class and Higera-class battlecruisers. Under the skilled command of Matt Horner, the Fourth Civilization's fleet, despite the initial losses, stood firm. By sacrificing 500 Vulture robots, they managed to stabilize their position and launch a counterattack. As Santa Maria ordered a retreat, 10 Higuera-class battlecruisers, having flanked the Republic fleet, unleashed a barrage of heavy artillery. Simultaneously, the Cole-class battlecruisers accelerated, their 4 large laser cannons firing X-rays continuously at the Republic's battleships. The Republic fleet's retreat turned chaotic, losing formation and becoming disorganized. In the midst of this chaos, the Sova-class aircraft carrier had already reached Cloud City, deploying 80 unmanned missile platforms around the city to establish a blockade. Santa Maria's fleet, attempting to return, collided with this defense line, further disrupting their formation. Forced to abandon Cloud City, they fled to other floating cities to regroup. After dispersing Bespin's fleet, the imposing silhouettes of 6 Lucrehook-class battleships slowly approached Cloud City. The city's residents watched in terror as the massive ships obscured the stars, casting a shadow over the city. The Sova-class carrier launched more than 400 ghost fighters, which bombarded the city's outskirts with pulse laser cannons and air-to-surface missiles, overwhelming the anti-aircraft defenses. With the city's defenses compromised, dozens of C-9979 transport aircraft and 200 APOD-33 transport aircraft, loaded with B-1 battle droids and troops from the Fourth Civilization, launched from the Lucrehook-class battleships. They began their descent into Cloud City, marking the start of a new phase in the battle for control. Chapter 525, The Bloody Battle of Bespin, 3. Bespin Planet, Cloud City. The once mesmerizing sight of the huge disc-shaped city, spanning 16.2 kilometers in diameter and rising 17.3 kilometers high, was now engulfed in the chaos of war. The skies around the city buzzed with the activity of hundreds of Ghost and Vulture fighters, diving in and out of the city's airspace, unleashing a barrage of lasers and missiles. The city's anti-aircraft defenses retaliated fiercely, lighting up the night sky with a dazzling display of laser beams. Despite the city being shrouded in darkness with all lights turned off, the relentless exchange of fire illuminated the skies above. The Fourth Civilization's fighter jets had driven the Bespin defense fleet into retreat, securing air superiority. With no opposition left in the skies, they unleashed their firepower without restraint. A squadron of 12 Ghost fighter jets soared over Cloud City, their pilots pushing the engines to their limits to evade the ground-based anti-aircraft fire. Weaving through the towering structures at the city's core, they fired their pulsed laser cannons at any opportunity, the powerful beams slicing through buildings and igniting explosions. Upon locating several anti-aircraft gun emplacements on the rooftops, the squadron leader signaled an attack. The Ghost fighters swiftly dispersed, attacking the targets from multiple directions with Hellfire air-to-ground missiles. The resulting explosions obliterated the quad-mounted blaster cannons, sending debris raining down onto the deserted streets below, littered with abandoned luggage and hover cars. Suddenly, a signal on the radar indicated the launch of 4 Bespin Air Force Z-95 fighter jets heading their way. The squadron leader issued a swift command through the comms: "One detachment, take them down quickly. The rest, disperse and locate their launch sites. Call in a team of Vulture fighters for support." Received came the acknowledgement from 3 Ghost fighters. The pilots activated their VR-like devices, switching to fully electronically controlled flight mode. Moments later, their stealth systems engaged, cloaking the fighters from both visual and radar detection. The remaining 9 fighters split into 3 groups, each heading in a different direction to hunt for new targets. Responding to their call, a formation of 30 Vulture droid fighters nearby adjusted their course, descending to engage the Z-95s. The Z-95s, now unable to track their adversaries, descended into disarray. Their radars picked up only faint signals, making it impossible to lock on. Suddenly, Gemini air-to-air missiles materialized out of nowhere, catching the Z-95s completely off guard. The fighters, lacking countermeasures against stealth attacks, were swiftly shot down. Meanwhile, Bespin's defense forces mobilized, streaming out from garrisons across the city. They moved into pre-assigned sectors to set up anti-aircraft fire points. The Bespin Defense Force, numbering only 10,000, had always prepared for skirmishes with pirates, never anticipating an assault by a regular army. "Move out! Don't stop! Where's the third row?" shouted a commander. Head to the hotel in the commercial center. There's an anti-aircraft gun there. Set up a defensive position and bring more anti-aircraft missiles. The defense forces scrambled to respond to the overwhelming aerial assault, their actions fueled by a desperate determination to defend against the unexpected might of a well-organized invading force. An officer of the Bespin Defense Force stood atop an armored vehicle, his voice cutting through the chaos as he alerted the soldiers below. The other side has a lot of planes. In the sky above, ghost fighters darted past, engaging in fierce combat with the sporadically launched Bespin starfighters. Following the ghost fighters' trail, swarms of Vulture robot fighter jets descended like their namesake, emotionless and relentless, targeting any movement on the ground with deadly precision. Suddenly, a Z-95 fighter jet, engulfed, in flames, plummeted from the sky, crashing into a nearby building with a thunderous explosion. The pilot, in a desperate attempt to escape, ejected from the cockpit only to be mercilessly pursued by a Vulture fighter. The robotic predator launched an attack, obliterating the cockpit mid-air. The resulting explosion drew the attention of more Vulture fighters, prompting a frenzied dive towards the wreckage. "Crap, we're exposed! Run! Scatter!" the officer screamed, panic-stricken. The Bespin soldiers scrambled for cover, some firing their blaster rifles into the sky in a futile attempt to defend themselves. The scene descended into utter chaos as the Vulture fighters zeroed in on their targets. Diving at high speed, they unleashed a barrage of fire. The ground was ravaged by the relentless assault of high-powered blaster cannons, the red beams causing devastating explosions upon impact. Soldiers caught in the open were obliterated, leaving no trace behind. In the midst of the onslaught, the officer leaped from the armored vehicle moments before it was decimated by blaster fire. A shard of shrapnel struck him, sending him flying before impaling him against the barracks wall, his blood cascading down like a waterfall. "Run, run," he managed to cry out. As the first wave of attacks subsided, the surviving soldiers staggered to their feet, desperately seeking refuge. However, the respite was short-lived. The Vulture fighters, having executed a swift turn, prepared for a second bombing run. One fighter, misjudging its maneuver, crashed into an office building. Inside, terrified staff members who had not yet evacuated scrambled for safety as the robotic fighter, transitioning to a walking mode on its four wings, mercilessly fired a rocket at them. The explosion was catastrophic, leaving destruction in its wake as the robot retracted its wings and took to the skies once more. The initial bombing had thrown the Bespin soldiers into disarray, with only a handful managing to find shelter within the buildings. The remaining Vulture fighters patrolled the battlefield, taking off to rejoin their formation once they confirmed there were no targets left to engage. The relentless bombardment by the Fourth Civilization's fighter planes left Yuncheng in ruins, incapable of mounting any effective resistance. The imposing Lucre Hook-class battleship loomed over Cloud City, while C-9979 transport ships descended to ultra-low altitudes, deploying B-1 battle droids and B-2 super battle droids. These droids, undeterred by the chaos below, advanced rapidly upon landing, quickly overwhelming the sparse resistance they encountered. The landing field was sufficiently prepared, allowing more transport planes to begin their descent. Attachment 1 of the Easter egg chapter, Vulture Robot Fighter in Walking Mode and Flight Mode. Volume 2, Chapter 526, The Bloody Battle of Bespin, Part 4. An APOD-33 transport aircraft detached from the Rookie Hook-class battleship, making its way toward the designated landing site. Inside, Huang Yehao and his close friend Cummings from Semeth stood at the forefront, addressing the rows of soldiers before them. Despite being seasoned veterans of the Fourth Civilization Army with ample battlefield experience, Huang Yehao's tendency to defy orders had kept him at the rank of platoon leader. Currently, he was in charge of the 4th Platoon, 4th Company, 97th Regiment of the 3rd Infantry Division. Huang Yehao surveyed his 38 subordinates, noting the palpable tension on their faces. Clapping his hands to capture their attention, he announced, "All right, brothers. Our mission is to seize the Yunmelis Hotel in the number 5 area on the city's eastern landing zone. The hotel has its own energy supply, making it an ideal location for mounting turrets. Intelligence reports suggest around 70 Bespin soldiers are stationed there. Our goal is to locate and eliminate them. We'll be supported by 100 B-1 battle robots and 5 B-2 super battle robots. Don't worry, the Bespin forces are no match for us. As he concluded, Huang pointed outside the window where a squadron of vulture fighters was seen bombarding a skyscraper. Instead of missiles, they fired blaster machine guns, creating a spectacle of destruction. Look, our Air Force has already commenced bombing runs. Let the battlefield's ambiance sink in, he remarked. The transport began its descent, and the pilot's voice, filled with a casual bravado, crackled through the intercom. All right, friends, the landing zone is clear. Expect a smooth landing. Enjoy the battlefield. Ha ha! Huang Yahao then checked his M15 Defender assault rifle, donned his Liberator-type combat helmet, and secured the transparent visor before cocking the rifle with a definitive click. The other soldiers followed suit, meticulously preparing their gear. The transport shuddered slightly upon landing, and as the hatch swung open, a potent smell of gunpowder wafted in, stirring a sense of excitement among the troops. Move out! Disembark quickly! Don't crowd the exit! Head straight for the hotel! Go! Huang barked, nudging a soldier forward as he led the way out of the transport. The 4th platoon swiftly organized into groups of 5, advancing with practiced coordination and covering each other's movements. Meanwhile, a massive C-9979 landing ship hovered overhead, releasing hundreds of robots that plummeted tens of meters before landing, unfolding, and charging toward the hotel entrance. As more APOD 33 transports landed, soldiers clad in dark blue Liberator combat uniforms disembarked and dispersed in various directions. The city echoed with sporadic gunfire and explosions, signaling the weakening resistance of Yuncheng's defenders and the 4th Civilization's strategic restraint from deploying heavy weaponry. Upon reaching the hotel entrance, Huang's platoon was greeted by a volley of energy beams from above, decimating several B-1 combat robots. The soldiers quickly sought cover. Huang activated the universal tool on his wrist, pulling up a terrain scan of the hotel's surroundings. He pointed out strategic entry points to Cummings. This is the kitchen, and here's the maintenance channel. Let's split into 2 teams and infiltrate from these directions. Their plan set, the soldiers readied themselves for the assault, their resolve hardened by the knowledge that the battle for the Yunmelis Hotel would be a pivotal moment in the bloody battle of Bespin. Cummings laughed heartily. Leave it to me. He quickly positioned himself behind a bunker, hoisting a twin-mounted 6-barreled machine gun onto his formidable frame. With precision, he unleashed a barrage of bullets towards the hotel's entrance, shattering the door within seconds. Seizing the moment, Huang Yehao, alongside 2 squads from the 4th row, stormed the hotel from both flanks, deploying several flash bombs to disorient any opposition. The hotel, vast and echoing with the chaos of the previous battle, was quickly overtaken. Bespin soldiers, caught off guard, were either neutralized or scattered in panic. The resistance they attempted to muster was swiftly quelled by the 4th Civilization's elite soldiers. Meanwhile, over 100 robots scoured the premises, leaving no room unchecked. Huang Yehao forcefully kicked open a door, startling the occupants. Inside, he found a group of hotel staff and guests, their faces etched with fear, huddled together. Among them stood a man of noble bearing, pistol in hand, defiance in his eyes. Okay, put down your weapons. No one will harm you, Huang Yehao calmly announced, gesturing for them to lower their arms. The armed man retorted, his voice trembling with emotion. You separatist dogs, invaders, executioners, butchers, I will never surrender. Listen, the war is over for you. It doesn't matter who rules now. Just put down your gun, and no harm will come to you. It's for your own good. Huang Yehao tried to reason, his voice firm yet reassuring. No, I don't believe you. Just go. Occupy wherever you wish, but leave us be, the man cried out, his fear palpable. Put down the gun. Huang Yahao's command sliced through the tension. Refusing to yield, the man's resolve crumbled into tears, yet he stood his ground. Before Huang Yahao could further persuade him, a B-2 super battle robot burst through the wall, its presence dominating the room. It immediately identified the man's pistol as a threat, raising its arm equipped with blaster guns and firing without a moment's hesitation. The room was instantly filled with the sound of discharging energy beams, and the smell of burnt flesh became overwhelming. "Cease fire! I ordered you to cease fire!" Huang Yehao bellowed at the robot, which promptly ceased its attack and retracted its arm, stating in a monotone, "The threat target has been neutralized." Surveying the grim scene before him, Huang Yehao's expression darkened. He turned to his soldiers, noticing their pale faces, and explained, "These robots are programmed to eliminate any armed threats automatically. It's not up to us." Despite his words, his demeanor remained somber throughout the operation. The battle for the hotel was brief. After quelling the Bespin soldiers' resistance, the robots efficiently secured the building. Huang Yehao and Cummings later ascended to the rooftop, where their forces were assembling a missile tower with robotic assistance. Huang Yehao, lighting a cigarette, took a deep drag, his gaze fixed on the smoke-filled cityscape, lost in thought. The conflict in Yuncheng was short-lived. The city's defenders, numbering only 10,000, were no match for the Fourth Civilization's superior numbers, equipment, and training. The initial bombardment had already sealed their fate. The largest pockets of resistance they managed to form never exceeded 200 soldiers. Within 4 hours, Yuncheng had fallen. Following this victory, the Fourth Civilization proceeded to target other floating cities within Bespin, while the remnants of Bespin's defensive fleet, along with Mielefigo and Santa Maria, retreated amidst the turmoil. Volume 2, Chapter 527, Responding with Fear. On May 25th, just 3 days after Count Dooku declared the Confederacy of Independent Systems' independence from the Galactic Republic, the capital of the Galactic Republic, Coruscant, received alarming news. Bespin, a neutral planet, had fallen to the Separatists. This marked the first planet to be captured by the Separatists since the outbreak of the war. Neutral planets, though officially under the Galactic Republic's administration, chose not to participate in the conflict. They neither supported the Galactic Republic nor the Confederation of Independent Systems, declaring unilateral neutrality. Bespin, a planet that preferred commerce over conflict, was one such example. Unfortunately, the war did not grant them the luxury of neutrality. The governor of Bespin, Mielefigo, and the military commander, Santa Maria, were forced to abandon everything they could and led the remaining fleet to seek refuge on the planet Dora. They sent a distress message to Coruscant, pleading for assistance. In his office, Chairman of the Galactic Council, Schiff Palpatine, reviewed the plea for help. His gaze then shifted to a small star map projection on the corner of his desk, landing on the Endor galaxy, a seemingly insignificant spot. A sinister chuckle escaped him, a stark contrast to his usually kind demeanor. After a moment, he regained his composure, activated the communicator, and requested, "Help me invite Master Shakti over. We have urgent matters to discuss." Switching the channel, he was greeted by the holographic projection of a man in his 40s, Governor Wilhuff Tarkin, whose sharp eyes betrayed his otherwise unassuming appearance. "Your Excellency, Speaker," Tarkin greeted with a slight bow, acknowledging the gravity of Bespin's fall. "I've been closely monitoring the situation on Bespin, but my hands are tied as the Sisvena sector, where I am, is under siege by separatists. Agmar is critical. Losing it would jeopardize the Corellian trade route. However, I do have some thoughts regarding Bespin." Palpatine smiled. "That's precisely why I sought you out, my friend. In matters of military strategy, your insight is invaluable." Tarkin nodded. "War is more than just the act of pulling a trigger. The true essence of war is often hidden, rooted in the human heart." As they spoke, Master Shakti entered the room. Palpatine greeted her with a smile, gesturing for her to join them. "The separatist movement's aggression has put us in a precarious position, especially on Geonosis, where Master Yoda and 200,000 clone soldiers are encircled. The separatists' simultaneous attacks in 17 locations have instilled fear in the hearts of the Republic's trillions of citizens. They fear the separatists and the war itself," Tarkin explained. Palpatine nodded. "We have chosen to face this war head-on," Tarkin continued. "But if fear dominates, the public sentiment will turn against the war. Ironically, they won't oppose the separatists who instill this fear, but will instead turn against us. And the fall of Bespin will only deepen this fear," Palpatine concluded. "So, what do you suggest?" Palpatine inquired. Fear should be our weapon, not our burden. We must use it to bind the hearts of our enemies, and Bespin is where we start, Tarkin declared. Why Bespin? Master Shak Ti asked, intrigued by the strategy. Tarkin leaned forward. Bespin's fall is not just a military defeat, it's a symbol. By demonstrating our resolve to reclaim and secure Bespin, we send a powerful message. We show that fear has no hold over us, that we are capable of overcoming it and protecting those under our care. This will not only boost the morale of our citizens, but also deter our enemies by showcasing our strength and determination. Palpatine and Shak Ti exchanged thoughtful looks, recognizing the potential in Tarkin's approach. The battle for Bespin would be more than a fight for territory. It would be a crucial move in the war of hearts and minds. Shak Ti raised a question. Why target these planets specifically? Tarkin responded with a sense of pride. They are neutral planets that have been attacked by the Separatists. When the Republic faced peril, they chose to abandon us and declare neutrality. Such neutrality, at a time like this, is tantamount to betrayal. It's a reprehensible act that we cannot allow to proliferate. Yet, with the Separatists' continuous victories, over 6,000 galaxies within the Milky Way have declared neutrality. Is this normal? Should this be permitted? Absolutely not. Palpatine, having received the response he anticipated, wore a slightly grim smile. Therefore, we must take a strong stance on the planet Bespin. We must oppose not only the Separatists, but also those who hide behind the guise of neutrality and refuse to take a stand. Governor Tarkin's statement was firm and decisive. Palpatine then turned to Shak Ti, offering her a warm smile. What are your thoughts, Master Shak Ti? Although Shak Ti sensed something unsettling in Tarkin's rhetoric, she couldn't deny the logic in his plan, given the Republic's current defensive position in the war. With Master Yoda and Master Windu absent, and Master Depa Billaba leading a fleet to Geonosis to break the siege, she was the only one left to oversee the Jedi Order's operations. She found herself with little room to propose an alternative strategy. I support launching a counterattack towards planet Bespin, provided we have the means, Shak Ti conceded. It's within our capabilities, assured Palpatine. The quarter power dock has rectified their prior errors, and 60 of our newest warships, the Chaser-class battlecruisers, stand ready. However, we lack sufficient troops, Shak Ti pointed out, her brow furrowed in concern. Palpatine stood, chuckling softly. In a republic as vast as ours, there's no shortage of brave souls willing to fight for unity. However, I also hope the Jedi Order will lead this army. After a moment of contemplation, Shak Ti replied, Jedi Masters Glee, Aiden Ward, and their apprentices can join this expedition. Palpatine bowed slightly, expressing his gratitude. I can sense the determination of the Jedi Order. On behalf of the trillions of citizens of the Galactic Republic, I thank you. Without any suspicion, Shak Ti stood, returned the salute, and departed. Vol 2, Chapter 528, Battle of Geonosis, Part 1. On the planet Geonosis, a tragic space battle was unfolding. The vast fleet of the Galactic Republic emerged from hyperspace, immediately engaging in a fierce firefight with the Confederate fleet of the independent systems that had been lying in wait. Due to disparities in the capabilities of their battleships and the levels of their hyperdrives, the Republic's vanguard consisted of 18 Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers. On the bridge of one of the flagships, Jedi Master Depa Billaba stood, her posture betraying a hint of fatigue. She surveyed the Confederate fleet with a grave expression. Energy beams, powerful and relentless, whizzed past their battleships, some glancing off the shields and creating ripples of light. The rapid maneuvers of the battleship, coupled with insufficient adjustments to the internal artificial gravity, made it feel as though the ground beneath them was tilting. Taking a deep breath, she said, This battle will not be easily won. I sense death in the Force, a multitude of deaths. We sense it too, Master, Luna Meng replied, her expression serene despite the grim acknowledgement. But in war, death is inevitable. The important thing is rescuing Master Yoda. That's what truly matters. Luna Han interjected, trying to sound optimistic. Depa Billaba glanced back at her. Luna Han quickly touched her forehead in a mock gesture of fear, hastily adding, I mean, if we can save Master Yoda, we'll be saving many more lives, right? Nodding slightly, Depa Billaba turned to her crew. Prepare to launch the fighter squadron. We need to buy time for the rest of our fleet to arrive. Yes, Master, Luna Meng responded, bowing slightly in acknowledgement. Luna Huan, feeling relieved from the momentary tension, playfully stuck her tongue out at her sister. Suddenly, a pen from the table flew through the air and struck her on the forehead. She yelped, clutching her forehead as she scampered away. Across from the Republic fleet, the Confederate forces were arrayed in a formidable trapezoidal formation. This included 5 Divinity-class destroyers, 20 Generosity-class frigates, 5 Disobedient-class light destroyers, and 20 Vengeance-class light destroyers, all protecting 3 Lucre Hook-class battleships at the rear. These warships unleashed a barrage of laser and energy beams at the Republic's Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers. On the flagship, a Shenyi-class destroyer, Admiral Trench, a hatch with 6 arms resembling a spider, pondered the situation. One hand idly touched the corner of his mouth, while the other tapped a pointer against his palm. Judging by the Republic's formation, they have more ships on the way. Their haste is evident in the inconsistency of their hyperdrive capabilities, he mused. We should launch a full assault and obliterate the Republic fleet, suggested the T-Series tactical robot beside him in a monotone. No, Trench countered, tapping his pointer thoughtfully. Deploy half of our fighter jets to disrupt the Dreadnought's formation. If I recall correctly, those cruisers have limited capacity for carrying fighters. Following his command, the Confederate ships opened their hangars, releasing a swarm of Vulture droid fighters that surged towards the Republic fleet. Notify all ships to maintain formation and suppress their firepower, but do not break ranks, Admiral Trench ordered, his voice carrying a hint of anticipation for the battle ahead. Target and fire, commanded the T-Series tactical robot, its hand slicing through the air with authority. The B-1 robot, tasked with controlling the spaceship, promptly pressed the fire button. The twin-mounted turbo-laser cannon of the Shenyi-class destroyer roared to life, unleashing a dazzling beam that struck a Dreadnought-class heavy cruiser. The cruiser's protective shield rippled under the impact. Meanwhile, the Vulture fighter group engaged in a fierce battle with the Republic fleet. The Dreadnought-class heavy cruiser's 20 near-defense laser cannons fired relentlessly, sending countless tiny laser beams streaking through space. However, the sheer number of Vultures, coupled with their speed and agility, made it impossible for the cruiser's fire control system to accurately target and track the droid fighters. These robotic adversaries continued to launch small proton torpedoes and concussion missiles, forcing the Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers to divert shield energy from the front to reinforce other sections of the ship. Despite these efforts, 3 Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers saw their shields fail, their armor battered by continuous bombardment as they began to turn away, attempting to withdraw from the battle. At this critical juncture, the Republic fleet's fighter jets finally launched. Each Dreadnought-class heavy cruiser carried 12 fighter jets, totaling 216 when fully deployed, most of which were V-19 Torrent fighter jets. Unbeknownst to many, a different fighter jet was among them, an ARC-170 heavy fighter. This new jet, a collaborative effort between Incom and a small engineering company named Yaguang, represented the next generation of heavy multi-role fighter jets, poised to replace the Z-95 Headhunter. The ARC-170, still in its final testing phase, was not expected to be equipped by the Grand Republic Army for several months. However, this particular ARC-170 had been modified. Its 2 powerful wing-mounted laser cannons and rear turret were removed in favor of a more powerful engine and enhanced mobility. The original 3-seat configuration was reduced to 2, occupied by a girl in a red robe and another in a blue robe. More than 200 Republic fighter jets courageously plunged into the fray against thousands of Vulture droid fighters, marking the beginning of a tragic aerial battle. "Ah, big sister, let's start," said Luna Han from the pilot's seat, casually donning a tactical goggle with a microphone. "I'm ready, Huan," responded Luna Meng, her voice calm and collected as she sat in the co-pilot's seat, her tactical goggles already in place. "Let's show them what we're made of." Luna Han's laughter rang out, tinged with a hint of defiant arrogance. Simultaneously, an alarm blared from the Confederate battleship of the Independent Galaxy, where Admiral Trench was stationed, as well as from the internal systems of every Vulture droid fighter engaged in the attack. Under the watchful eyes of hundreds of thousands of operators, pilots, and commanders from both sides, the Republic's fighter jets seemed to multiply, turning into thousands. Each jet was clearly detected by the radar systems, convincing even the most sophisticated electronic systems of their authenticity. Attachment 1 of the Easter egg chapter. The ARC-170 heavy fighter is renowned as the most formidable space fighter of the Clone Wars. Vol 2 Chapter 529, Battle with Geonosis, Middle. Admiral Trench, commanding the fleet, was taken aback when he noticed the sudden increase in the number of Republic fighter jets. His surprise was so profound that he nearly dropped his pointer. "What's going on? How did the number of Republic fighter jets increase so suddenly?" he exclaimed. "Sir, it appears the Republic has deployed additional fighter jets. They might have had extra hangars on standby," suggested a T-Series tactical robot, struggling to make sense of the situation with its limited understanding, offering what it believed to be the most logical explanation. "Continue the attack. Those extra fighter jets must be decoys," Admiral Trench declared with conviction. The Vulture droid fighters, programmed to engage with over 1,000 V-19 Torrent fighters, were caught off guard. One Vulture droid accelerated, locking onto a Torrent fighter, and unleashed a barrage of energy blasts. However, the blasts passed through the Torrent fighter as if it were mere air. Confused but undeterred, the Vulture droid prepared for another attack, only to be destroyed by a real Torrent fighter that swooped in with its laser cannons blazing, obliterating the Vulture droid in an instant. Amidst the chaos of thousands of real and illusory Republic fighters, the Vulture droid fighters of the Confederacy of Independent Systems were disoriented, while the pilots of the Galactic Republic were emboldened. They skillfully navigated through the illusions, reaping a bountiful harvest of enemy fighters. Luna Meng and Luna Phantom, piloting a modified ARC-170, became harbingers of doom on the battlefield, effortlessly shooting down every Vulture droid they encountered. Luna Phantom, exhilarated by the thrill of battle, laughed heartily as she steered her fighter jet into the heart of enemy territory. Luna Meng, ever the voice of reason, cautioned her sister through the earpiece to exercise caution and not to be reckless. The Confederate fleet suffered heavy losses as their Vulture droids were decimated. Soon after, Carrack-class light cruisers and CR-70 frigates emerged from hyperspace, followed by 5 Acclamator-class assault ships and other smaller warships. The arrival of 4 Invincible-class heavy cruisers, each measuring 2,011 meters in length, marked the presence of the largest warships on the battlefield. Despite their imposing size, these ships were products of technology and design from over 3,000 years ago, which meant their hyperspace engines were not as advanced, causing them to arrive late to the battlefield. The efficiency of a hyperspace engine is measured by the distance it can cover in a single jump. Engines with lower hyperspace capabilities require multiple jumps to cover the same distance, necessitating cooldown periods and recalculations of the course. This not only wastes time but also consumes a significant amount of hypermatter fuel, necessitating frequent refueling. Thus, larger and more advanced warships, equipped with higher-level hyperspace engines and capable of carrying more hypermatter fuel, are preferred for long-distance raids due to their enhanced mobility. This time, however, the Galactic Republic had no choice but to deploy a diverse fleet to Geonosis, as the delivery of 60 Chariot-class battlecruisers, promised by Quarter Power Dock, was secretly delayed by Palpatine. Depa Billaba was forced to assemble this eclectic fleet, resulting in varying levels of hyperspace capabilities among the ships. Depa Billaba's bold decision was driven by her confidence in her 2 most cherished apprentices, Luna Meng and Luna Han. Their unique ability to harness the Force together made them an invaluable asset to the Republic's efforts. Despite their inability to master lightsaber combat, the Dream Sisters possessed a formidable Force talent, particularly in creating illusions so convincing they could even deceive the radars of battleships. This skill was of battlefield significance. Admiral Trench had planned to overwhelm the Republic fleet with a swarm of Fight A-R jets, hoping to inflict severe damage before the arrival of his main battleship forces. However, his strategy was utterly foiled by the Dream Sisters' illusions. The phantoms they conjured, numbering over 1,000, alongside more than 200 real fighters, decimated the Vulture droid fighter fleet with ease. Now, Admiral Trench found himself confronting a nearly unscathed Republic fleet. The Invincible-class heavy cruiser, a massive vessel measuring 2,011 meters in length and of a roughly cylindrical shape, targeted the Confederate fleet with its high-power laser main guns and unleashed a devastating barrage. The lasers, while dispersing, maintained a concentrated focus within a 5-meter diameter, striking a Munificent-class frigate with precision. The frigate's shields blared warnings as its capacitors were fried, leading to a violent explosion. B-1 droids attempting to repair and replace the damaged capacitors were obliterated in the blast. Smoke billowed from within the Munificent class, rendering it combat ineffective and leaving it adrift. The Invincible-class heavy cruiser, a relic from over 3,000 years ago, faced significant challenges against the multifaceted attacks of modern interstellar fighters. However, its sheer size and the formidable energy it commanded meant its main gun's firepower was incredibly fearsome. Under normal circumstances, a mere 1 or 2 squadrons of fighters might suffice to challenge the Invincibles. Yet the Dream Sisters' terrifying illusions, which enveloped the entire battlefield, changed the dynamics entirely. Admiral Trench, recognizing the futility of sending more fighters to their doom, hesitated to deploy additional forces. The Invincible-class heavy cruiser's main guns fired again, repeating the destruction inflicted upon another Munificent-class frigate. The frigate's shields sounded alarms as it suffered the same fate as its predecessor. Capacitors burned out, followed by a catastrophic explosion. The B-1 droids, once again attempting repairs, were caught in the blast. The frigate was left incapacitated, engulfed in smoke, and drifting aimlessly. Despite its age and the disadvantage of being less maneuverable against the agile attacks of contemporary interstellar fighters, the Invincible-class heavy cruiser's sheer size and the raw power it wielded made it a terrifying adversary. The Dream Sisters' illusions had effectively neutralized the Confederate fleet's numerical advantage, forcing Admiral Trench to reconsider his strategy in the face of an unexpectedly resilient Republic fleet. Vol 2, Chapter 5 and 30, Battle of Geonosis, Part 2. Upon realizing that a formidable fleet from the Republic was approaching, Admiral Trench acknowledged the slim chances of victory. He consolidated his forces and retreated towards a satellite orbiting the planet Geonosis. During this strategic withdrawal, he initiated a communication with Governor Tang Xiao, expressing his recent encounter with the Jedi Knights. "Your Excellency, Governor, the battle against the Jedi Knights was unexpected. You should have warned me about the Dream Twins," he remarked with a hint of reproach. Tang Xiao responded with a cold laugh. "The Dream Twins? Let them have their fun. If Count Dooku chooses to play dirty, he can't fault us for responding in kind. However, you should be wary of the Jedi Knights. Each possesses abilities that could turn the tide of battle." Admiral Trench shared his experience. "The power of the Jedi Knight is indeed formidable. My fighter squadron was decimated by their illusions. Such a fascinating ability." "The Force harbors nearly limitless potential," Tang Xiao explained. "From Plagueis, who sought immortality, to Tenebris, with intellect rivaling a supercomputer, and Yaddle, who could halt time. These beings each had a unique understanding of the Force. Thus, only the Force can counteract itself. I've ordered the fleet to adopt a defensive stance. The Republic's forces are growing impatient, attempting to land on Geonosis," Trench reported, his tone betraying a hint of amusement. "Is that your plan, Admiral Trench?" Tang Xiao inquired, seeking clarity. "I have no desire to confront the Jedi directly, but that doesn't mean they can claim victory without a fight," Trench replied, his voice slow and deliberate. He then expressed curiosity about Count Dooku's actions. "Dooku informed me that the Galactic Republic is amassing a large force to assault planet Bespin," Tang Xiao revealed. "That's troubling news, but at least he informed you," Trench noted. Tang Xiao's expression darkened. "Remember, Count Dooku and the Republic are in collusion. The Republic's attack is likely coordinated with Darth Sidious. Despite seeking Dooku's assistance, he's been evasive. It seems they're determined to weaken us on Bespin." "What do you need me to do?" Trench asked, ready to assist. I'll handle the Republic's fleet. But you, Tang Xiao said with a grim look, I want you to conduct an orbital bombardment of Geonosis. Of course, I'm here to challenge the Republic's forces, Trench said with a sinister grin, stroking his claw. On the surface of Geonosis, the Republic's clone army had seized the main stronghold, only to find it destroyed by the Bogle, leaving nothing but ruins. The passages leading underground were also demolished, trapping the Republic forces amidst the debris. In the recent skirmishes, the Republic lost 2 of its 13 Cheer-class assault landing ships, with the remaining fleet's resources severely depleted. Their shield regeneration was down to 30 to 40% capacity, and they were nearly out of energy and explosives. Despite downing 5 of the Confederacy's Generosity-class communication frigates, the Republic forces were at a significant disadvantage compared to the Confederates, who could resupply at will. Once General Grievous assumed command of the Confederate forces, his strategic genius became apparent. Facing the Republic's well-equipped clone army, Grievous was reminded of his past leading the Kali against the technologically superior Yamray. Though his memories had been erased, some instincts remained. Instincts that penetrate deep into the soul, commanded an army of 400,000 droids and 150,000 Geonosians, orchestrating a relentless assault on the clone army without regard for losses. Despite lacking heavy equipment and relying primarily on infantry, the droids' attacks, which often resulted in thousands of their own being destroyed without inflicting significant casualties on the clone soldiers, continued unabated. The underground factories on Geonosis worked tirelessly, producing more oids and sending them from all corners of the planet towards the ruins of their main stronghold. Their numbers swelled from 400,000 to 550,000 despite continuous losses. Masters Yoda and Windu were compelled to organize the remaining Jedi into shifts, alternating between duty and rest, while the clone army was divided into several legions, each taking turns to stand guard. Just as their physical and ammunition supplies neared depletion, Admiral Trench's fleet arrived, turning the tide. The arrival of 3 rookie Hook-class battleships, along with swarms of B-1 battle droids, B-2 super battle droids, and NR-N99 Persuader-class tank droids, signaled a significant reinforcement. These highly mobile tanks, produced by the Corporate Alliance and commanded by General Trench, resembled snails in appearance and formed the backbone of the main armored unit. General Grievous, bolstered by the reinforcements, launched a coordinated attack from multiple directions, putting the clone army's position in immediate jeopardy. On the battlefield, B-1 combat droids charged forward at high speed, their E-5 blaster rifles firing continuously. Explosions rocked the area, destroying numerous droids, only for more to take their place. A few remaining LAI assault transport aircraft attempted to stem the tide with powerful laser beams, creating fiery havoc among the droid ranks, but they were quickly targeted and shot down by the NR-N99 tanks. The downed transport aircraft exploded into fireballs upon impact, trampled by the advancing tank droids. The ATTE all-terrain tactical walkers, with their 4 sturdy legs, moved forward, unleashing a barrage of fire from their front-mounted scattering blasters. Their heavy turbo laser guns sought out the largest threats, firing precious ammunition in an effort to maximize damage with each shot. Establish a position behind the wreckage of that. You have 2 bazookas. Make sure to take out those tank droids, a clone commander shouted. No sooner had he spoken than a missile exploded a few dozen meters in front of him. The shockwave sent him flying, but his armor absorbed most of the blast's energy. Rolling to a stop, he quickly stood up and opened fire on a group of B-1 battle droids advancing towards him. His blaster's red energy beams were precise, destroying 4 or 5 droids instantly. The other clone troopers joined in, decimating the droid group. Before they could catch their breath, 2 NR-N99 tank droids charged towards them, threatening to overrun their position. Volume 2, Chapter 531, The Battle of Geonosis, Conclusion. The NR-N99 tank droids, towering at 6.2 meters tall and stretching 10.96 meters in length, are engineered with a centrally arranged all-axle track system. This design grants them exceptional maneuverability and off-road capabilities, enabling them to traverse even aquatic terrains. However, their major vulnerability lies in their shield system. Once penetrated, the droids cannot withstand direct heavy artillery fire. Moreover, their track layout significantly hampers their ability to execute swift turns, relying instead on steering tracks on either side for navigation. A direct confrontation with such a behemoth, especially being caught under its massive, rudder-like crawlers, would result in nothing less than a gruesome demise. This was the perilous situation Clone Commander Cody found himself in. Yet, the rigorous training he underwent on Kamino had prepared him for moments of dire adversity. Facing the imminent threat, Cody's instincts kicked in. He managed to evade the targeting lasers of the tank droids by leaping away just as they fired. Mid-air, he spun around and launched a grenade towards the enemy. The grenade detonated, causing the tank droid's shields to ripple and momentarily disrupting its sensor targeting system. In the brief respite, a series of anti-tank missiles rained down on the rear of the tank droid. With its shield energy focused on the front, the rear was left vulnerable. The missiles struck their target, crippling the droid's engine and rendering it immobile as its tracks slipped off. Cody, catching his breath, observed his combat team emerging from behind the wreckage of an ATTE walker, signaling him with their missile launcher still smoking from recent use. He nodded in acknowledgement. Despite the exhaustion from continuous combat, Cody, an elite ARC soldier, remained steadfast, foregoing rest to lead his battalion. Lifting his gaze, Cody's attention was drawn to the towering figure of Master Windu, still engaged in the thick of battle. The purple glow of his lightsaber was a beacon on the battlefield, deflecting a relentless barrage of laser fire and creating opportunities for the clone troopers to advance. It wasn't just Master Windu. Every Jedi present stood shoulder to shoulder with the clone troopers, wielding their force abilities and lightsabers to carve a path to victory. Taking a deep breath, Cody activated his helmet's communication system and spoke with a determined tone. 212th Attack Battalion, listen up. I know we're all pushed to our limits, but we must launch an assault. We cannot allow the Separatists' armored forces to overrun our positions. We need a more dynamic approach to our firepower. These tank droids are cumbersome and slow to turn. Once we engage, we'll hit them from the sides. Understood, Commander, came the unified response from the clone troopers. 212th Attack Battalion, charge! With Cody's command, hundreds of clone troopers surged forward from their positions. Forming small squads, they braved the onslaught of the droid army, drawing the fire of the NR-N99 tank droids. As more droids redirected their fire to suppress the counterattack, they inadvertently exposed their flanks to the clone forces. The 212th Attack Battalion, leading the charge, faced intense opposition. Lasers whizzed past, and many fell in the line of duty. Yet, driven by the prospect of victory, they pressed on, penetrating deeper into enemy lines, demonstrating the resilience and bravery that defined them. The inherent flaw in their design was that once the shield was breached, they couldn't withstand the onslaught of heavy artillery. Their track layout severely limited their agility, making turns cumbersome and reliant on the steering tracks on both sides. The massive tank robots, with their central, rudder-like crawlers, posed a lethal threat if one were to be caught beneath them, a fate akin to being ground into oblivion. This was the peril Commander Cody found himself facing. However, the rigorous training he had undergone on Kamino had prepared him for such dire situations. Despite the looming threat, Cody's response was swift and decisive. He leaped to safety just as the 4 blasters of the 2 tank droids zeroed in on his previous position. Mid-air, he executed a precise turn and hurled a grenade towards the enemy. The grenade detonated, sending shockwaves through the tank robot's shield and momentarily disrupting its sensor-guided aim. In the brief chaos that ensued, another explosion rocked the battlefield as the droid's blaster beam missed Cody, detonating where he had stood moments before. Then, a series of anti-tank missiles rained down on the rear of the tank robot. With its shield energy focused on the front, the robot's rear, including its engine, was left vulnerable. The missiles struck their target, causing catastrophic damage. The robot's broken track slipped off, rendering it immobile. Cody, catching his breath, observed the combat team he had directed to take cover behind the wreckage of an ATTE walker. They signaled to him, missile launchers still smoking from their recent assault. Acknowledging their success with a nod, Cody felt the weight of continuous combat. As an elite ARC soldier and commander within the clone army, he had foregone rest to lead his troops. Lifting his gaze, Cody's attention was drawn to the towering figure of Master Windu, still engaged in the thick of battle. The purple glow of his lightsaber was a beacon on the battlefield, repelling the onslaught of lasers and blaster beams with swift, precise movements. Master Windu, like all the Jedi present, stood shoulder to shoulder with the clone troopers, their force abilities and lightsabers carving a path to victory. Taking a deep breath, Cody activated his helmet's communication system. With a voice that carried the weight of their dire situation, he addressed the 212th Attack Battalion. Even though I know standing is a challenge for us all, we must launch one more assault. We cannot allow the Separatist armored forces to overrun our positions with impunity. We need a more dynamic approach to our firepower. These cumbersome tank robots are vulnerable on their sides once we close in. Let's exploit that weakness. Understood, Commander, came the resolute response from the clone soldiers. 212th Attack Battalion, assault, Cody commanded. Hundreds of clone troopers surged forward from their positions, forming small, determined groups that braved the enemy's relentless fire. Their counterattack drew the attention of numerous NRN-99 tank robots, which adjusted their positions to quell the uprising, inadvertently exposing their flanks to the clone forces. The soldiers of the 212th Attack Battalion, leading the charge, faced intense opposition. Lasers whizzed by, claiming the lives of several troopers. Yet, driven by the prospect of victory, they pressed on, delving deeper into enemy lines. Vol 2, Chapter 532, A Strategic Retreat. Admiral Wolf Yularen was a tactician of even-handed skill, strategically positioning his fleet and deploying defensive lines in orbit around Geonosis to cover the retreat of the ground troops. The Separatist fleet's formation is too concentrated. They're aiming to force a breakthrough. Wolf Yularen observed the radar screen, pondered for a moment, and then commanded, "Let the Invincible and Dreadnought classes block the front, while the Carrack and CR-70 classes move to the flanks. Transform our formation into a pocket. Let's see the true strength of these Separatist ships." The Republic fleet immediately began to adjust its formation. The smaller warships spread out in all directions, up, down, left, and right, and accelerated, launching a barrage of fire at the Separatist fleet from the sides. However, the response from the Separatists was not what Wolf Yularen had anticipated. Led by Divinity-class destroyers and flanked by Disobedient-class light destroyers and Generosity-class frigates, the Separatist fleet formed a wedge-shaped formation and advanced without even activating their shields to return fire. The Republic's smaller spacecraft, attempting to flank the enemy, unleashed a storm of lasers and missiles. Yet, the Separatist fleet remained undeterred. Even as their flanks' shields were penetrated and the Republic's firepower caused violent explosions, thick smoke, and flames to erupt from the battleship's armor, they continued to concentrate their fire on the Republic fleet at the front. Moreover, the Separatists deployed all their fighters, with more than 700 Vulture droid fighters adjusting their combat AI to launch a frenzied attack on the Republic warships. The 4 Invincible-class heavy cruisers at the forefront of the Republic fleet were particularly targeted, suffering continuous blasts and laser strikes. Their shields flickered under the onslaught, eventually overloading and causing violent explosions to ripple across their heavy armor. Even after the shields were reactivated, the damaged hulls continued to burn. "General, the Spirit Invincible-class heavy cruiser has sustained severe damage. They've lost half of their turrets and are no longer combat-capable," a staff officer reported after reviewing the data. Wolf Yularen, with a grave expression, turned to Luna Meng and Luna Han, 2 esteemed Jedi Knights standing by his side. "The Separatist fleet is determined. This time, we need your assistance," he said. Luna Meng and Luna Han, usually more lighthearted, now wore serious expressions. "We can't sustain a prolonged fight," Luna Meng stated. "Let's do it. Every enemy we take down counts," Luna Han declared, rolling up his sleeves and stepping forward. "Please," Wolf Yularen said, giving them a military salute. The Republic fleet launched more than 170 remaining fighter jets, including the Dream Sisters' modified two-seat ARC 170 fighter. Suddenly, the sky was filled with illusions, and the number of fighter jets seemed to multiply into thousands. These real and illusory fighter jets charged towards the Confederation of Independent Systems fleet, unleashing a barrage of dense lasers and missiles. However, the cunning Admiral Trench of the Separatists had already devised a countermeasure. Twirling his pointer, he ordered, "Ignore those fighter jets. Focus all firepower on bombarding the Republic fleet. No matter how many illusions they conjure, the ones that can truly cause damage are fewer than 200. I've seen through their tricks." Under his command, the Separatist warships pressed on relentlessly. Despite the Republic's fighter jets and the small warships on the flanks continuing to fire, their primary target remained the front lines and the planet Geonosis itself, where the Republic clone troopers were boarding their ships. On the ground, General Grievous also rallied his forces, pressing forward with the last of his strength and an army nearly 600,000 strong. In the vast expanse of the Gobi Desert on the planet Geonosis, the sky was ablaze, with the final charge of countless robots. Explosions and laser fire nearly consumed the entire sky, painting a picture of chaos and destruction. The clone army, in a desperate bid for survival, continued to retreat. They utilized everything at their disposal, even repurposing the energy-depleted ATT and SPHAT self-propelled guns as makeshift roadblocks and bunkers. These once mighty machines, now reduced to stationary relics, served as the last line of defense. The clones, dubbed the Expendables, mounted their final stand within these improvised fortifications, rigging the remaining machinery with explosives to detonate upon the enemy's approach. As the evacuation progressed, with more and more troops boarding the escaped spacecraft, the ground positions steadily receded. The encirclement tightened, threatening to collapse entirely. Were it not for the continuous aerial fire support from the spaceships above, the ground forces would have been overrun much sooner. Amidst the chaos, Master Yoda, commanding the entire operation from the command center, received a distressing update from Wolf Uralin, the commander of the space fleet. "Master Yoda, the Separatist fleet has initiated a full-scale assault. Their charge is relentless, and our fleet can no longer hold them back." As he reported, a barrage of powerful laser beams pierced the sky, burning through the planet's atmosphere and creating massive explosions upon impact with the ground. The intensity of the attack was so severe that it ignited the clouds above, sending a rain of spaceship wreckage plummeting to the battlefield below. This debris, remnants of the Confederation of Independent Systems' destroyed battleships, continued to hurtle towards the planet at breakneck speeds, their momentum unyielded even in destruction. The impact of this wreckage was catastrophic, akin to a small-scale orbital bombardment. This was Admiral Trench's strategy, to utilize the wreckage of battleships as improvised bombs, a tactic that skirted the rules of engagement. The devastation wrought by these fallen warships threatened to obliterate a significant portion of Geonosis's industrial capabilities. In response to the dire situation, Master Yoda issued a decisive command: "Reinforce our position in space. All ships, whether fully manned or not, and even the smaller warships, must engage. We must counter the Separatists with everything we have." Following his orders, the Republic battleships stationed on Geonosis powered their engines to maximum and ascended towards the space battlefield, where the fleets of both factions were already entangled in a fierce confrontation. As the Republic ships made their ascent, the Confederate fleets, driven by a fearless resolve and controlled by robotic commanders, shifted their focus. They abandoned their current targets to unleash a relentless barrage on the Republic vessels attempting to escape the planet's gravity. This act of desperation highlighted the Confederates' willingness to sacrifice their robotic-controlled ships in a bid to decimate the Republic forces and ensure the destruction of Geonosis. Admiral Trench, overseeing the operation from his new flagship, a Lucrehulk-class battleship, had already prepared for this moment of sacrifice. By gathering the captains of all battleships onto his vessel, he had committed to a strategy that would either lead to the destruction of the Republic forces or the loss of his fleet. In this gamble, the stakes were nothing less than the fate of Geonosis itself. Vol 2, Chapter 533, painful decision. On the planet of Geonosis, the battles both on the ground and in space had escalated into tragic confrontations. Admiral Trench's fleet had launched relentless assaults, entangling with the Galactic Republic's fleet in a chaotic melee. Initially, the Republic's fleet held an advantage. However, at the war's onset, in an effort to support the ground forces, they had dispatched over half of their warships to engage in the planet's atmosphere. This strategic move was exploited by Admiral Trench, a master tactician renowned for his ability to outmaneuver fighter squadrons. Faced with the devastating onslaught of the Confederate fleet of independent systems, Admiral Wolf-Uralin found himself in a dire situation. Unlike his predecessor, tactical advisor Mabel Gasson, Wolf-Uralin possessed a deeper understanding of space combat tactics. He knew all too well that a defeat in space would lead to their encirclement on Geonosis, leaving no opportunity for escape. Meanwhile, the situation on the ground was equally dire. General Grievous, commanding the ground operations, was a far cry from the T-Series tactical droid previously in charge. In a bid to support Admiral Trench's strategy, Grievous had committed all available droid troops to a relentless assault. Having already depleted the clone army's ammunition supply, Grievous launched a coordinated attack from all directions, exploiting the moment when the Republic forces were most vulnerable. The Republic commanders, faced with the urgent need to evacuate, began loading their troops onto ships. However, this strategy reduced the number of troops available to defend their positions, exacerbating the pressure they were under. Initially, air support from the Republic's warships could have alleviated this pressure, but with the space battle demanding more ships, the ground forces found themselves increasingly overwhelmed. Admiral Trench's fleet, though battered, consisted of 2 Divinity-class destroyers, 3 Disobedient-class light destroyers, 6 Generosity-class communication frigates, and 4 Vengeance-class light destroyers. Under his command, these damaged vessels continued their ferocious assault. Even the Dream Sisters, leading the remaining fighters, launched desperate attacks on the Confederate fleet with the aid of the Mirage, but to no avail. Admiral Trench had realized that engaging with these illusions was futile. Concentrating all firepower on the Republic's battleships was a more effective strategy. He reasoned that the illusions could not transform into battleships, and even if they could, they would lack the maneuverability of fighter jets and be easily identifiable. With only a little over 100 fighter jets at their disposal, Trench was confident in the endurance of his metaphysical engine over the Republic's forces. As Trench had anticipated, the Republic's fleet suffered devastating losses. Despite the Dream Sisters' efforts to damage several Confederate battleships, it was not enough to turn the tide. Trench remained confident, knowing that the losses incurred were ultimately the burden of the Confederation of Independent Systems and the Galactic Republic, not his own. Moreover, the significant damage inflicted on the Republic would likely earn him rewards. In the Republic fleet, all 4 Invincible-class heavy cruisers were severely damaged and withdrawn from the battle, with 3 unable to evacuate due to hyperspace engine damage. Admiral Wolf-Uralin was now faced with a painful decision. The shuttle was tasked with evacuating 3 battleships. The crew members were transferred to other warships for safety. In addition to this, 10 Carrack-class light cruisers and over 30 CR-70 frigates were destroyed, while 7 Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers sustained severe damage. If Master Yoda hadn't timely dispatched reinforcements, and the surviving Jedi Knights hadn't joined the fray in their fighter jets, the outcome could have been catastrophic. The space battlefield was littered with debris, fragments of destroyed warships, and the bodies of countless soldiers and droids ejected into the void. Some of the wreckage was even burning in the vacuum of space, likely due to ignited engines, energy components, or oxygen-producing life support systems. Despite the grim scene, the battle raged on, with new Republic warships emerging from the atmosphere of the Geonosian planet to tip the scales in their favor. However, the situation on the ground was deteriorating rapidly. Over 20,000 regular soldiers and more than 30,000 clone troopers were holding their positions, but as more ships were diverted to the space battle, they found themselves overwhelmed by the 600,000-strong droid army. Master Yoda, Our ground forces are losing ground and can no longer hold their positions, reported Mabel Gasson, the Republic's tactical advisor. We have only one Cheer-class assault landing ship left on the ground. It's at full capacity, able to carry no more than 25,000 people. We cannot risk landing any more ships. The process is too time-consuming, and we simply cannot afford the delay. It was clear that a difficult decision lay ahead. Part of the ground forces would have to be left behind. The Jedi Knights present were visibly distressed by this news, and both Master Yoda and Master Windu remained silent. War's cruelty was undeniable, and the harsh reality of making such a choice had arrived sooner than expected. "How long can our fleet last in orbit?" Master Yoda inquired, his eyes closed in contemplation. "It's not about how long they can last. Maintaining a fleet of over 100,000 soldiers in space indefinitely is unsustainable. It would lead to disaster," Mabel Gasson replied, his voice heavy with defeat. After a long silence, Master Yoda spoke. "To defend our position, the soldiers who remain will be using their lives. A painful decision, indeed." Mabel Gasson, with a determined look, suggested, "Let the clone troopers be evacuated. Their strategic value is significantly higher than that of the regular soldiers. Allow me to issue this order. The Jedi Order should not be implicated in this decision. Moreover, I am prepared to stay behind and face whatever comes with these soldiers." His earlier misjudgment had contributed to their dire situation, and now he was ready to accept full responsibility. Master Yoda, after a moment of reflection, acknowledged the grim necessity of Mabel Gasson's proposal. In the context of the war, his decision is the correct one. As those who continue to live, our duty is to win this war and ensure that the sacrifices made are not in vain. Master Windu added. Master Yoda, with a resolute gaze, announced, "I will issue the order to retreat and take upon myself the burden of this defeat." At that moment, he made a heart-wrenching decision to sacrifice the 20,000 regular soldiers to save as many clone troopers as possible. This decision, though difficult, was deemed necessary by Master Yoda, who was prepared to face any repercussions to the Jedi Order's reputation. He understood that inaction or shifting the blame onto Mabel Gasson was not an option for someone who follows the path of the light and the Jedi way. Master Yoda personally delivered the final order, informing the soldiers that they must hold their ground as long as possible, but once the fleet departed, they were permitted to surrender. The Galactic Republic government would then do everything in its power to negotiate their release through diplomatic channels. The Confederation of Independent Systems was urged to at least afford the captives humane treatment. Meanwhile, the clone army was to retain 5,000 personnel, a decision that, surprisingly, did not elicit many complaints. A significant number of the wounded volunteered to remain, showcasing a sense of duty and sacrifice. However, for the 20,000 regular soldiers, this directive was perceived as exceedingly harsh. Upon receiving the order, an immediate mutiny erupted among the ranks of the ordinary soldiers, a direct response to what they deemed an unjust and cruel decision. This rebellion was swiftly and forcefully quelled by the 5,000 clone troopers. The efficiency and discipline of the clone troopers in suppressing the mutiny highlighted the stark differences in mindset and loyalty between them and the regular soldiers, further complicating the dynamics within the army. Vol 2, Chapter 534, Results of the Battle. The Republic fleet finally managed to escape from Geonosis after Admiral Trench's fleet was depleted. The battle, which began on May 20th, when Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi infiltrated the underground factory on Geonosis, lasted for 9 days before it finally concluded. The Republic's losses were significant. Of the initial fleet, only 15 Acclamator-class assault ships, 50 CR-70 frigates, over 60 Carrack-class light cruisers, and 11 Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers remained, with the largest, the 4 Invincible-class heavy cruisers, suffering heavy damages. 3 were so severely damaged they had to be scrapped, and 1 was left behind during the evacuation. The clone army, which entered the battle with 200,000 troops, suffered over 47,000 casualties, with more than 91,000 injured and 5,000 captured. Additionally, 20,000 civilians who participated in the conflict saw more than 4,000 killed or seriously injured, with 16,000 captured. The Republic also lost over 30,000 droids of various models and all of its heavy equipment, including more than 100 SPAT self-propelled artillery units, over 2,600 ATTE walkers, 1,600 Lei gunships, and more than 600 V-19 Torrent starfighters. From the Jedi Order, Masters Windu and Yoda led a contingent of 215 Jedi into battle. This number included the later rescued Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi, as well as Depa Billaba and the Dream Sisters, who joined as reinforcements, bringing the total to 220 Jedi participants. Tragically, 181 of these brave souls were permanently lost on the sands of Geonosis. The battle was a devastating blow, not only to the Galactic Republic and its newly established Grand Army, but also to the Jedi Order. The Confederacy of Independent Systems also faced significant losses, including 5 Lucree Hulk-class battleships, 5 Munificent-class star frigates, 10 Recusant-class light destroyers, 22 Pelta-class frigates, and the complete annihilation of the mercenary Sabaoth squadron loyal to Count Dooku. Additionally, all 5 Geonosian cruisers were destroyed. The droid army lost over 2.3 million B-1 battle droids, 150,000 B-2 super battle droids, 170,000 Geonosian soldiers, more than 500 NR-N99 Persuader-class droid enforcers, and over 20,000 large-scale combat vehicles, including spider droids and hailfire droids. The air losses were substantial as well, with 2,100 Geonosian Nantex-class defense fighters, over 7,000 Vulture droid fighters, and more than 200 other types of fighters, all shot down. The damage to Geonosis was catastrophic. 3 massive orbital defense cannons were destroyed, and the underground droid factory was severely damaged by the Jedi Knights, reducing the planet's production capacity by a third. The debris from large warships that were shot down during the battle caused as much destruction as orbital bombardment would have. This battle, which ignited the fuse of the war, inflicted immeasurable losses on both sides and set a grim tone for the massive conflict about to engulf the entire galaxy. However, unbeknownst to many, the course of the war had already been drastically altered due to the secret intervention of the Fourth Civilization and Tang Xiao. Admiral Severance Tan's sudden entry into the battlefield with her fleet, defeating the Republic's forces in orbit around Geonosis, triggered a chain reaction. The Republic's forces, now trapped on the planet, were forced to dispatch additional warships for rescue and continuation of the battle, a move that significantly deviated from the original campaign plans, which had anticipated much lower losses. In a decisive battle, 3,000 clone troopers and 179 Jedi Knights were lost, dealing a significant blow to the Confederation of Independent Systems. The Confederation suffered the loss of 14 Rookie Hook-class battleships, over 150 Battery-class transport ships, 20 Diamond-class transport cruisers, and more than 3 million droids, along with the complete defeat of more than 110,000 ground troops. This battle effectively crippled one of the Confederation's limbs at the outset. The strategic brilliance behind this victory elicited admiration for the combat staff who devised the plan and Severance Tan, who led the operation. Their combined excellence secured what could be considered the most favorable outcome for the Fourth Civilization. Despite the Republic's army incurring heavy losses, with no more than 50,000 of the 200,000 clone troopers immediately available for further combat and the rest requiring rest, this outcome was deemed necessary. The Fourth Civilization's true adversary remained the Galactic Republic, and weakening the Republic's forces was in their best interest. Conversely, the Confederation of Independent Systems managed to retain most of its transport ships at the cost of numerous battleships. This was crucial for 2 reasons. It allowed the Confederation to continue posing a threat to the Republic's heartland, and it drew attention to the Fourth Group and Dawn Planet, known for their strong shipbuilding industry and technology. Strengthening the secret alliance between Tang Xiao and the Confederation was vital to ensure Count Dooku would hesitate to launch an attack. The Freemasonry's goal was to covertly manipulate the Confederacy of Independent Systems, Industry and Economy, a plan that was only beginning to unfold. Tang Xiao's insistence on a Pyrrhic victory was a direct challenge to Count Dooku, especially after learning of the Galactic Republic's plan to deploy a formidable fleet of 60 Chaser-class battlecruisers to retake planet Bespin. This move, suggested by Darth Sidious and Count Dooku, was suspicious, as the fleet was not sent to Geonosis, but to the remote Bespin instead. As Darth Malthael's power gradually became apparent, suspicions about Dawn Planet and the Fourth Group being under the influence of Darth Sidious and his apprentice grew. Tang Xiao's priority was to ensure Count Dooku would not dare to target Dawn Planet and the Fourth Group, a strategy that extended beyond military tactics to include political maneuvering. Count Dooku's reluctance to support the attack on Bespin, orchestrated by Darth Sidious, was telling. The Confederation of Independent Systems was a critical instrument for realizing his political ideals, and its destruction was not part of Sidious's promise to Dooku. Meanwhile, Tang Xiao aimed to weaken the Confederation from within, a move Count Dooku was unwilling to risk politically. Francis Underwood, representing Dawn Planet, began to make waves within the Confederate Council on Lozax, building a reputation for Dawn Planet as the Confederation's savior. This threatened to undermine Count Dooku's political standing significantly, marking a pivotal moment in the ongoing conflict. Volume 2, Chapter 535, The Bespin Defense Line, 60 Chaser-class battlecruisers. Matt Horner furrowed his brow in concern. Our intelligence suggests these ships are roughly the size of a Cole-class battlecruiser. Indeed, and it's undeniable that the Chaser class, with its deep manufacturing roots from the Quat power dock, boasts a reliability surpassing our current flagship, the Cole-class battlecruiser. However, there's a silver lining. The Chaser class possesses a vast hangar, which means its firepower doesn't quite match up to the Cole class, explained Mrs. M., the Minister of Military Intelligence, through the holographic projection. Matt Horner pondered the situation. If the Galactic Republic is bold enough to dispatch 60 Chaser-class battlecruisers against our defenses on Bespin, they must have a strategy in mind. We need to prepare for the worst-case scenario. Moreover, the governor mentioned that General Severance Tan's covert military operation is expected to commence within 15 standard days. Once it begins, the Republic will be compelled to redirect their main forces towards her, potentially turning the tide of the conflict on Bespin, Mrs. M added. 15 standard days, understood. I'll make preparations with that timeline in mind, Matt Horner said, glancing at the perpetual calendar on his wristwatch to set a reminder. With a determined look, he affirmed, Bespin will be defended at all costs. After ending the communication, Horner gazed out the porthole into the vastness of space, where hundreds of engineering ships tirelessly constructed an array of cosmic fortifications. These defenses were part of the Traitors Emergency Alliance's strategy in the original Sin of the Empire of the Sun, featuring small Gauss artillery platforms and space hangars. The Gauss Fire Platform, essentially a compact space station, stood 60 meters tall and over 30 meters wide. It was armed with two 500mm caliber heavy electromagnetic guns, 16-unit pulse rocket launchers, and close-range laser guns. Initially, the design included a Mason ray cannon, but its development was still underway and wouldn't be ready in time for the battle. The hangar platform, another type of small space station, measured 50 meters in height and 120 meters in width. It housed 4 dual-mounted anti-aircraft laser cannons and 2 hangars, each capable of accommodating a squadron of 12 Ghost fighters or 24 Vulture robot fighters, complete with maintenance and supply facilities. This design aimed to decentralize the deployment of battleships and fighter jets, preventing enemy blockades and allowing for more focused shielding on the main battleships. History had shown that warships could suffer significant damage from local fighter attacks when distracted by managing their own fighters' launch and recovery. To enhance the stealth capabilities of these fortifications, engineers from the Fourth Civilization equipped both the Gauss fire and hangar platforms with stealth technology. Although activating weapons or managing fighter operations would compromise their invisibility, this feature significantly improved their concealment. Around planet Bespin, particularly near the Cloud City in the Bespin Life Belt, Matt Horner was orchestrating the construction of a formidable defense line. In addition to 80 unmanned missile platforms previously deployed by the Sova-class aircraft carrier, 20 hangar platforms, and 180 Gauss fire platforms were being established. Furthermore, Horner had arranged for 20 air minefields to be laid out, fortifying Bespin's defenses against the impending Republic assault. The defense systems were primarily positioned around Yuncheng and several other major floating cities. Given that there were no costs involved, reaching the Republic's landing ships could prove highly lucrative. However, Matt Horner was well aware that this alone was insufficient. With the hyperspace channel connecting all corners of the galaxy, travel from one end to the other could be accomplished in less than a day. This advancement had significantly accelerated the pace of warfare, making it devastatingly rapid and highlighting the critical role of industrial capacity. In essence, a faction with robust industrial capabilities could construct a vast fleet of warships, enabling them to launch attacks from multiple directions simultaneously within a single day. This would exponentially increase their numerical advantage. Conversely, the only way for their opponents to hinder their maneuvers was by deploying a hyperspace blocker. However, if large-scale warships were to pass through the hyperspace channel in high density within a short period, it would cause disturbances, offering some level of resistance. Understanding the challenges of defending Bespin for 15 days, Matt Horner realized the Republic's fleet could afford losses, unlike the fleet of the Fourth Civilization. After much contemplation, he began formulating another battle plan and reached out to Igor Zavalov, the commander-in-chief of the Fourth Civilization Navy. 6 days earlier, the Fourth Civilization's fleet had embarked in 3 different directions. Besides the A Fleet's assault on Bespin, Severance Tan dispatched her adjutant to lead the B Fleet's main force to Celia Planet. Following the end of its civil war and the establishment of a technologically inclined alienated republic under the rule of Elder Dole Fermi Bonmi, Celia had been navigating a path of neutrality. Despite Elder Dole's apparent leanings towards separatism, he maintained a cautious distance, neither openly supporting nor opposing it. He argued that Celia, being in the early stages of development, could not withstand the ravages of war. However, when the Galactic Republic and the Confederation of Independent Systems formally convened on May 21st, Elder Dole declared Celia's neutrality, a move that, while reasonable from the planet's perspective, was seen as a betrayal by the Fourth Civilization and the Confederation. They felt deceived, having invested significantly in Celia's industrial and technological development, only for it to claim neutrality. On May 23rd, the B Fleet set sail, and by the early hours of May 24th, it arrived at Celia. The appearance of kilometer-long ships emitting intense white light at the planet's gravitational boundary sent the entire planet into a state of panic. With a formidable force comprising 20 Cole-class battlecruisers, 20 Higra-class battlecruisers, and 20 Sova-class aircraft carriers, the fleet had the capability to reduce Celia to ashes within a day. Elder Dole Fermi Bonmi was petrified, having never anticipated that his planet, with its negligible industrial capacity, would attract such a massive fleet. In desperation, he sought diplomatic negotiations with the Fourth Civilization Fleet's commander, hoping to avert a catastrophe. The presence of the separatist fleet raised the alarming possibility of drawing the Galactic Republic fleet to Celia. Attachment 1 of the Easter Egg Chapter, Gaussian Firepower Platform and Hangar Platform. Vol 2, Chapter 536, Intimidation and Temptation. Your Excellency, I must reiterate that Planet Celia maintains a stance of neutrality. The presence of your fleet here is a clear violation of our principles. We respectfully request that you honor our declaration of neutrality and withdraw your forces immediately, the Celia Planet diplomat stated, his voice tinged with a hint of humility. On the other end of the communication, a young commander couldn't help but let out a sneer, a mocking smile playing at the corners of his mouth. This commander, appearing to be in his late 20s, possessed a youthful, oriental visage, albeit with an unconventional twist. His hair was dyed a striking shade of blonde, sprinkled with glitter, making it shimmer as if it were a light source in its own right. Beneath this flamboyant exterior, however, was a face of undeniable handsomeness, one that could rival the famed Jing Sama, much to the chagrin of many, particularly men. Convey to your great elder that the status of neutrality is not yours to declare, the commander retorted with a sneer, casually running his fingers through his glittering hair, sending a cascade of sparkles in the air. His name was Lin Nanyi, the adjutant to Admiral Severance Tan, and a distinguished graduate from the Fourth Civilization Military Academy. Lin Nanyi's path was not typical. Ordinarily, graduates of his caliber would undergo further training with either the Hell Fleet or a local fleet before ascending to a position within a frontline fleet. However, Admiral Severance Tan saw potential in Lin Nanyi, perhaps finding a kindred spirit in another top academic achiever. As a result, upon assuming command of the Fourth Civilization's B Fleet, she made an exception for Lin Nanyi, appointing him as her adjutant. Moreover, during a covert mission led by Severance Tan, she entrusted Lin Nanyi with the command of the B Fleet's main force, tasking him with dealing with Dol Fermi Bangmi, the opportunistic Great Elder of Celia. This decision was partly a test for Lin Nanyi and partly due to the expectation of minimal combat during the mission to Celia. However, this arrangement sparked rumors within the military, suggesting Lin Nanyi was nothing more than Severance Tan's favored protege. Despite the lack of any personal relationship beyond their professional roles, these rumors placed a significant burden on Lin Nanyi, especially now, as his ability to successfully complete this mission was under scrutiny. The communication resumed, this time featuring the projection of Great Elder Dole Fermi Bangmi himself. He greeted Lin Nanyi with a warm smile. "Ah, General Lin, you're even younger than I anticipated. Truly a young and promising figure. It seems Dawn Planet has been nurturing a remarkable generation of talents over the past decade. I must extend my personal congratulations to Governor Tang." Dole Fermi Bangmi, the architect behind Celia's civil unrest and its subsequent rise to power, was a master of political maneuvering. His opening remarks were laced with subtle jabs, insinuating Lin Nanyi's youth and inexperience, while suggesting that someone of higher stature, like Tang Xiao, should be addressing the matter. Lin Nanyi, unfazed by the Great Elder's insinuations, responded coolly from his seat, legs crossed. Dawn Planet is keen on protecting its investments on Celia, including the vital Bangta Night Shuttle racing track. We propose a mutual defense treaty and further joint development initiatives with Planet Celia. The expression on Great Elder Dole's face shifted subtly as Lin Nanyi laid out Dawn Planet's terms, marking the beginning of a negotiation that would test both parties' resolve and cunning. The atmosphere in the room shifted as the Great Elder Dole emphasized, "We naturally welcome the idea of mutual development and benefit, but let's not forget, the Galactic Republic still upholds the law. As a neutral planet, I believe we have no obligation to defend or engage in conflict." He stressed the word neutral significantly. Lin Nanyi, anning back with a hand supporting his cheek, retorted with a sneer, "What relevance does the Galactic Republic's legal system have to the Confederation of Independent Galaxies? The planet Celia adheres to the legitimate regime. As it stands, the Galactic Republic remains the recognized authority in this galaxy, does it not?" Great Elder Dole responded. "For me, this matter is beyond debate. The Confederation of Independent Galaxies symbolizes the freedom and interests of the people across the vast middle and outer rings of the Milky Way." Lin Nanyi leaned forward, emphasizing each word. "We are champions of your freedom, and yet you choose to remain on the sidelines? In that case, should we dismantle the tracks, factories, and research facilities we've invested in? Our freedom is our own concern. We never solicited your intervention." Elder Dole's expression darkened. "Perhaps you should review the terms of the treaty. Shall I have someone present it to you?" Lin Nanyi suggested, his golden hair catching the light in a way that seemed to make it sparkle. At that moment, the female adjutant, who was about to serve coffee, accidentally dropped the pot, causing it to shatter on the floor. Several B-1 robots swiftly arrived with cleaning equipment to tidy up the mess. Elder Dole watched silently, his gaze fixed on Lin Nanyi. Suddenly, a Cole-class battlecruiser broke formation and descended towards Celia's atmosphere. The 1,100-meter-long warship entered the atmosphere, its rapid descent causing the air around it to ignite, creating a fiery spectacle in the sky. Dozens of fighter jets launched from airfields across Celia, circling the imposing warship without daring to approach. The battlecruiser's armaments were far beyond what the planet's fighters could challenge. "You are openly invading," Elder Dole exclaimed, his eyes ablaze with anger. "You misunderstand, Elder Dole. This is merely a special delivery," Lin Nan replied with a sneer. "If the contract's terms are unclear to you, I'll personally ensure its delivery. Our governor, Tang Xiao, awaits on the Dawn planet. He will clarify any doubts you have." Meanwhile, the Cole-class battlecruiser hovered above Tikaf City, the capital of Celia, casting a massive shadow over the Celia Presbyterian Church. It was as if the ship brought with it a cloud of war to the peaceful planet. By the afternoon of that day, Dole Fermi Bonmi, the elder of Celia, had signed a contract, abandoning the planet's neutrality to join the Confederation of Independent Galaxies. The agreement included a mutual defense pact with the Dawn planet. According to the treaty, Celia's factories transitioned to a wartime footing, integrating into Dawn's industrial system to produce various low-tech weapons, ammunition, and other industrial components. Additionally, Celia committed to forming an expeditionary force of 500,000 who, after 3 months of training, would join the battle to defend the freedom and interests of the planet. This marked the beginning of a secret combat operation led by Admiral Severance Tan, commander of Fleet B. Vol. 2, Chapter 537, Raid on Kyle Station. On May 25th, amidst the fierce battle raging on Geonosis, a small fleet comprising 3 Apocalypse-class light cruisers and 1 Grey Horse-class aircraft carrier stealthily approached the planet Tatooine, concealing themselves within the galaxy's asteroid belt. Aboard one of the Apocalypse-class light cruisers, Severance Tan, the commander-in-chief of the 4th Civilization B Fleet, sat poised, her attention fixed on the holographic projection before her. The projection displayed Sang Hill, the co-chairman of the Interstellar Banking Association. "I've just received news that, concurrent with the Galactic Republic's raid on Geonosis, they also targeted an industrial platform of mine near Seskin. This facility is a significant production hub for combat machinery. I'm hoping you can assist in its full recovery," Sang Hill explained, his voice tinged with urgency. "I have little patience for beating around the bush, Moon. Speak plainly, or I'll take my leave." Severance Tan responded, her tone light yet firm, as she sat with her legs crossed. Sang Hill, slightly unnerved, proceeded. "Upon investigating the Republic's interest in this platform, I discovered that a spy named Burga Bu Dai had intercepted highly classified intelligence regarding a secret weapon the Galactic Republic was developing. The Republic, having intercepted Budai's communications, apprehended the spy at my facility. I need you to raid the platform to ascertain whether the spy has been extracted and, ideally, to reclaim the facility intact." "And the extent of this intelligence?" Tan inquired, her interest piqued. "From Dooku's perspective, it's merely a routine military operation," Sang Hill replied, a sly expression crossing his face. "However, for the operation's secrecy, your involvement must remain unknown to the Republic until Budai's location is confirmed. Be aware, the Republic's clone forces currently control the platform, whether or not Budai is still there. You'd better hope the information this spy possesses is worth the effort. Missing out on the action for a fruitless endeavor would be a grave mistake," Severance Tan stated coldly as she stood. "The Master has given his orders, so I will assist you, Sandhill, for the sake of the fallen angel." Idra Caddis, with a sinister smile, followed Severance Tan out of the bridge, her movements serpentine. Severance Tan and Idra Caddis took a shuttle to the industrial platform near the planet Seskin, as directed by Sandhill. Seskin, a gas giant with a depleted asteroid belt once rich in metal, now surrounded the planet. The platform, known as Kyle Station, was a massive manufacturing space station, over 2,500 meters in diameter. Originally built by the Demask Holding Group under Hago Demask II, it was later sold and acquired by the Interstellar Banking Association, which transformed it into a factory. As they neared Kyle Station in their shuttle, Severance Tan and Idra Caddis realized their caution was unnecessary. The station was already embroiled in conflict. A Geonosian assault detachment had infiltrated the station aboard 4 battery-class transport ships, attempting to reclaim the platform. A fierce firefight ensued. Adra piloted the shuttle to a concealed hangar beneath the industrial platform, and they entered the maintenance tunnels using data provided by San Hill. The control center is under heavy guard. Any rash action will surely expose us, Severance Tan observed, eyeing the fortified control center. That's your concern, not mine, Idra Kedis replied with a malevolent grin. In an instant, she transformed into a black mist and surged toward a patrolling guard outside, her form blurring as she moved. A blood-red lightsaber flashed into existence, slicing through the air like a crimson rainbow. In an instant, it decapitated 2 clone soldiers. The remaining 7 or 8 members of the patrol reacted swiftly, spinning around and raising their blasters to fire. However, every blast they unleashed was deflect, ted by Adra Kedis's lightsaber, turning the deadly beams back upon themselves. The clone troopers' polymer alloy armor, designed to withstand such attacks, failed under the onslaught. The rebounded energy beams punctured through, burning holes into the armor and obliterating the soldiers within almost instantaneously. "There's an intruder! Quick, raise the alarm!" one clone trooper managed to shout before his warning was cut short. Adra Kedis's blood-red lightsaber had already found its next target, piercing through his throat. With a swift motion, the lightsaber swung, and the trooper's head tumbled to the ground, marking the end of the patrol. From a distance, Adra Kedis cast a glance towards Severance Tan's hiding spot. With 2 fingers, the color of the sky at dusk, pressed to his lips, he blew a kiss. Then, transforming into a cloud of black mist, he surged forward towards the oncoming clone soldiers. "This is your problem, not mine," Adra Kedis murmured, a cruel smile playing on his lips as he vanished into the mist, his figure a shadowy blur rushing towards another patrol. Once again, the blood-red lightsaber materialized, its blade cutting through the air with lethal precision. 2 clone soldiers fell immediately, their heads severed by the swift strike. The rest of the patrol, numbering 7 or 8, quickly turned and opened fire, only to meet the same fate as their predecessors. Their blasts, meant to neutralize the threat, were effortlessly deflected by Edra's lightsaber, turning the weapons against their wielders. The clone trooper's armor, despite its resilience, could not withstand the redirected energy beams, which burned through the material and eradicated the soldiers within moments. As the last clone trooper attempted to sound the alarm, his efforts were abruptly silenced. Adra Kedis's lightsaber had found its mark once more, slicing through the air and claiming another life. The patrol was decimated, each member falling in quick succession. With the immediate threat neutralized, Adra Kedis allowed himself a moment to acknowledge Severance Tan's concealed position. He placed 2 fingers against his lips, a gesture of farewell or perhaps a taunt, before dissolving into a swirling mass of black mist. He moved with purpose, a specter in the night, ready to confront the next wave of clone soldiers with the same ruthless efficiency. Vol 2, Chapter 538, Darth Lilim, the latest update on the 4th natural disaster of Star Wars. Commanding a contingent of Galactic Republic clones, Jedi Knight Jor Drakus, a young Twi'lek, surveyed the scene with a critical eye. His pale complexion contrasted sharply with the vibrant colors of his surroundings, and one of his head tentacles was wrapped around his neck like a scarf, a peculiar but distinguishing feature. "What are these Geonosian insects up to? They can't breach the frontal attack control center, so they aim to cut off the power," Drakus mused, his gaze fixed on the control center, bathed in the glow of red emergency lights. He picked up a pair of binoculars from the bed and peered into the distance, his expression turning into a frown. Turning to a clone officer who bore blue stripes on his armor, he inquired, "Lieutenant, have we confirmed why the power was cut? How could it have been so easily disrupted here?" The clone lieutenant snapped to attention and responded, "Sir, our investigation revealed that a group of Geonosians destroyed a small power station 3 kilometers away. Given the dilapidated state of this space station, it was one of only 2 power stations still operational. Consequently, the energy supply here was automatically severed due to the sudden voltage drop. This has affected not only us, but also the manufacturing center's energy supply. However, please rest assured, we've activated the backup power supply, ensuring the control center's communication functions remain uninterrupted. Drakus nodded in approval. The communication lines must remain open. We need to maintain contact with the Mabros spacecraft at all costs. They have to navigate through the battlefield on the Geonosian planet to reach us. We cannot afford any errors. Assign a communication platoon to continue guiding the Mabros here. Meanwhile, we'll take the offensive and defeat the Geonosians. As for the Dark Jedi Knight on the loose, I'll handle him personally. Understood, sir. The lieutenant saluted once more before turning to relay the orders. The clone army, numbering over 300, promptly dispatched a team to confront the Geonosian forces sabotaging the power station. As the clones mobilized, Drakus activated his communicator and said, "Git, keep an eye on that spy. Under no circumstances should you leave your post. We need him to draw out the mysterious Hutt buyer." "Leave it to me, Drakus," came a man's voice from the other end. While the clone army advanced, Drakus unsheathed his blue lightsaber and hastened towards the opposite side of the control center. The area was eerily quiet, save for a few sporadic gunshots. Upon arrival, Drakus found only the lifeless bodies of clone troopers, their heads gruesomely severed, and a figure in black attire. A female Twi'lek, her back turned to him, was tampering with a combination lock on a door. The sight of a blood-red lightsaber in her hand made Drakus's brow furrow. Raising his lightsaber, he declared, "I cannot believe one of my own kind has stooped so low. Turn and face me, Dark Jedi. Today, you meet your end." The woman let out a seductive chuckle, her voice dripping with malice. "Darkness, Jedi," she taunted, turning to face him. Her beauty was startling, rendering Drakus momentarily speechless. Adela Caddis, once known for her youthful appearance, had transformed. Now fully embraced by the dark side, her allure was magnified, her figure boldly displayed in a manner that was both captivating and intimidating. Even on the battlefield, she dared to wear long, high-heeled shoes, her slender, tight outfit accentuating her curves in a way that could send any man's heart racing. Only a fool or someone immensely powerful would dare to wear such attire in combat. I seem to recall seeing you before," Drakus said, trying to place her. "You know what? Cute little fresh meat. I'm not just any Dark Jedi." Adela Caddis licked her lips, her gaze locking onto his with an intensity that was both thrilling and terrifying. The smile on her face, as twisted, stained with blood. "You should call me Lily. Lilim? That's not a name from Twi'lek," Drakus said, taking a step back and positioning his lightsaber defensively before his eyes. He could sense the overwhelming dark side force emanating from the seductive Twi'lek beauty before him. She was unlike any adversary he had ever encountered, a formidable enemy with immense power. Adra's smile morphed into something more sinister and grotesque. "Darth Lilim," she declared. As soon as the words left her mouth, she closed the distance between them in a blink, her blood-red lightsaber descending in a swift arc. Drakus managed to block Darth Lilim's strike, but the force of her attack sent him flying back several meters, coughing up blood midair. He rolled upon landing, narrowly avoiding several sharp metal shards that impaled the ground where he had just been. Scrambling to his feet, Drakus tapped into the force, sliding away just in time to dodge Darth Lilim's subsequent assault. But as he stood, Darth Lilim was upon him again in an instant, her blood-red lightsaber slashing through the air. This time, Drakus successfully parried her attack, extending his control over the Force to manipulate the space around them. However, Darth Lilim's power was overwhelming. A decade ago, she was only slightly less formidable than Darth Maul. But after 10 years of degradation, fueled by constant fear and anger, her strength had grown to a terrifying magnitude. Drakus felt Darth Lilim's Force presence entwining around him like a nest of venomous snakes, so potent that he dared not extend his Force beyond a meter from himself. He feared any attempt would invite a devastating counterattack from Darth Lilim. Their lightsabers clashed, the Force between them a tumultuous battlefield, Drakus's face contorted with effort. "You are a Sith Lord," he gasped, recalling Master Yoda's briefing on the Sith Lord's existence to every Jedi as the war began. "Realize this and embrace your end with joy," Darth Lilim taunted, her power surging to new heights, completely overpowering Drakus. Then, with a hiss of sizzling electricity, she unleashed a torrent of lightning. The lightning, channeled through her blood-red lightsaber, crackled with terrifying intensity. Zilla, Zilla! The relentless lightning discharged countless tiny arcs, bombarding Drakus, leaving his body scorched with numerous burns, his flesh beginning to smolder. In that dire moment, a loud shout pierced the chaos. "Drakus, I'll help you." Vol 2, Chapter 539, The Fourth Natural Disaster of Star Wars. In an instant, a green sword light descended from behind Darth Lilim. Anticipating the attack, she abandoned her duel with Joel Drakus and, wielding her blood-red lightsaber charged with powerful lightning, clashed fiercely against the incoming green lightsaber. The force of her counterattack was so immense that it sent the attacker flying over 10 meters away. "Kit, why are you here?" Joel Drakus struggled to his feet, addressing the male human Jedi Knight who had just been repelled by Lilim. "The Maybus has completed its final hyperspace jump and will be here soon. He will be infallible," Kit replied, rising from the ground and adopting a defensive stance with his lightsaber, pointing it forward. He was referring to the spy who had stolen their secret weapon information. "The battle has only just begun, Sith," Drakus exclaimed, reminding Kit that the beautiful Twi'lek woman before them was a formidable Sith Lord. Both Jedi were using the third form of lightsaber combat, Soresu, to buy time until the arrival of the Maybus, a Cheer-class assault landing ship that would give them a tactical advantage. However, Darth Lilim merely laughed. "No, the battle is over," she declared, her lightsaber movements generating powerful bursts of lightning. She then assumed a standard lightsaber stance with ease, showcasing the fourth form of lightsaber combat, Ataru, known for its aggressive tactics. Unlike the often improvisational style of the Sith, Lilim's form was precise and well-practiced, a discipline more commonly associated with the Jedi Order. Drakus and Kit were taken aback, realizing that Darth Lilim had not even been using her full capabilities in lightsaber combat. She had merely been toying with them. "Kit," Drakus said gravely. "I understand," Kit replied solemnly, recognizing that they could not defeat this enemy. The best course of action was to retreat and regroup with their forces. Despite their efforts to maintain strategic positions, Darth Lilim's next move was swift and unexpected. She vanished, reappearing in front of Kit in the blink of an eye. Her lightsaber, now a furious storm of lightning, attacked relentlessly. Kit managed to block the initial onslaught, but the continuous assault and the intensifying lightning proved overwhelming. Meanwhile, Drakus attempted to attack Darth Lilim from behind, but the dark side force surrounding her and the relentless lightning thwarted his efforts, preventing him from getting within 2 meters of her. "I said, the battle, it's over!" "Ha!" Darth Lilim laughed triumphantly, ready to deliver the final blow. In a moment of sudden chaos, a violent explosion erupted not far away, startling Darth Lilim into performing a swift backflip, landing firmly away from the battle. Git and Joel Drakus quickly joined forces, standing side by side, their attention fixed on the source of the explosion. The explosions continued, each boom echoing from the direction of the factory. Suddenly, a green laser beam sliced through the factory gate, striking the tower above the control center. The intense heat caused the equipment inside to detonate violently, and the tower itself was severed by the relentless laser. The formidable firepower made quick work of the factory gate, and then, emerging from the smoke, were colossal combat machines. These machines stood at a towering height of 7.32 meters, with spherical bodies supported by 4 elongated mechanical legs. These legs moved with a hydraulic system that allowed for fluid motion. Mounted on the top and bottom of the spherical body were dish-shaped turrets, unleashing devastating laser beams. They were the OG-9 homing spider droids, large anti-armor robots supplied by the Commerce Guild to the Confederation of Independent Systems. Initially designed for debt collection, they were repurposed for warfare against the Galactic Republic's armored forces. "Robots here, how is that possible?" Joel Drakus managed to say through clenched teeth. "It seems that small, Eon wanted to surprise you," Darth Lilim remarked with a smirk. She then resumed her stance, readying herself with the fourth-style sword technique, Ataru, her blood-red lightsaber crackling with powerful lightning once more. Git adopted a defensive stance, whispering urgently, "Listen, we stand no chance. I'll hold her off. You need to escape and bring this news to Master Yoda." No, I should stay and fight, Joel Drakas protested, his voice low but determined. There's no time for debate. You're already injured, and you won't be able to hold her off. It would only lead to both of us dying here. Remember, take the news to Master Yoda. Ensure the secret weapon's intelligence doesn't fall into the Separatists' hands. Git said, positioning himself between Darth Lilim and Joel Drakas. Kit, Drakas began, his voice fading as he realized this was their only chance. Kit was sacrificing his life to give him a sliver of hope. Meanwhile, the OG-9 homing spider droids continued their relentless assault on the industrial platform's main building complex, including the control center. The green laser beams from their cannons cut through the structures like butter, leaving a trail of destruction and fire in their wake. As another explosion rocked the area, Git shouted, "Come on!" With fearless resolve, he charged towards Darth Lilim. Attachment 1 of the Easter egg chapter, the OG-9 homing spider droid, an automatic combat machine. Vol 2, Chapter 540, Confidential Information. In the heart of the blazing inferno that once was the Kyle Industrial Platform Manufacturing Center, Severance Tan stood amidst the flames, a cold smile playing at the corner of her mouth as she watched the OG-9 homing spider combat droids march out of the factory. Dressed not in her usual general's uniform, but in a dark blue combat suit with a flowing black velvet cape, she exuded an air of heroism and majesty. It appears these are the only semi-finished products available, Severance Tan mused, her gaze drifting towards the production line, where a dozen DSD-1 dwarf spider droids were in the midst of assembly. Among the remnants of Thornhill's industrial platforms, a total of 20 OG-9 homing spider droids and parts for 20 DSD-1 dwarf spider droids had been salvaged. With the factory reactivated at her command, these parts were swiftly assembled. The Galactic Republic's clone contingent had executed their operation flawlessly, seizing control of the industrial platform's control center in a swift surprise attack, capturing Boudet and halting the production line. Their main challenge arose when they lost their means of transportation and their communication equipment was damaged. They had to rely on the control center's communication facilities to call for reinforcements. However, their shuttle was destroyed by the platform's anti-aircraft defenses, necessitating a distress call for support. This allowed Sandhill to seek assistance from Archduke Poggle Lower, who dispatched an army to reclaim the platform. Meanwhile, Severance Tan had also made contact with Tang Xiao. Upon infiltrating the platform, Severance Tan directed the Geonosian troops to target the energy facilities. Although this posed no significant threat to the clone army, it was enough to cause them considerable inconvenience. The clone army's commander, confident in his troops' combat effectiveness, was determined not to let the Geonosians wreak havoc unchallenged, focusing their efforts on the energy facility. The destruction of the energy facilities and the subsequent power outage in the factory area went unnoticed by the clone army. Thus, the sudden appearance of the combat droid squadron took them by surprise. Severance Tan didn't expect these droids to defeat the clone contingent outright, but their attack on the control center would force the clone army to reveal if they had a spy within their ranks. "Where did these droids come from?" exclaimed the clone soldiers left to guard the rear, as those at the control center quickly rallied to defend against the onslaught. The 40 combat droids, with the OG-9 homing spider droids' formidable firepower and the DSD-1 dwarf spider droids' agility across various terrains, proved to be a challenge for the unprepared clone soldiers. "Quick, take the prisoners and retreat. Join the main force," commanded a clone trooper decisively. The troops acted with precision, splitting into groups. 2 went to secure the spy Boudet from a small warehouse, while the rest fought a strategic retreat. Unbeknownst to them, Severance Tan observed from the top floor of a nearby factory building, waiting for her moment to strike. However, it seemed the clone army was favored by fortune. Just as Severance Tan prepared to launch her surprise attack, an alarm from her multi-purpose tool interrupted her. Glancing at her wrist, she noticed that their ship, parked behind the factory area, had detected an approaching target on its radar. Through the transparent protective shield of the factory, she could soon see the approaching threat directly. Under the shadow of an industrial platform, a massive warship approached at high speed, a Cheer-class assault landing ship named the Mabras. "It's the Mabras! Everyone, stay calm and maintain formation. Squad 2, head back to the control center to check if the communication equipment is still operational. Establish contact with them as soon as possible," came the command. The well-trained clone troopers quickly divided their forces. A Group B ravelly charged towards the chaos of battle, drawing the attention of several OG-9 homing spider droids away from the main building. Meanwhile, a communications team dashed back into the control room, now engulfed in flames. Standing tall amidst the turmoil, Severance Tan, with a cold sneer, detached a metal hilt from her waist, a lightsaber. She descended from the sky, landing atop a homing spider droid, then leaped towards the clone troopers guarding a spy. The lightsaber activated with a hiss, its yellow blade slicing through the air. In an instant, she was among the clone soldiers, her lightsaber moving with incredible speed, cutting them down effortlessly. The remaining clone troopers scattered, firing at Tan, but she deflected every blaster shot with her lightsaber, rendering their efforts futile. "Don't let her reach the spy," shouted the clone captain, grabbing Buday's arm and pulling him away. Just as they were about to escape, Tan gestured forcefully, unleashing a powerful wave of the Force that sent the clone captain and 2 soldiers flying. However, the clone captain, determined not to let the spy fall into enemy hands, shot Buday in the back without a moment's hesitation as he was thrown backward. Enraged by this act, Tan used the Force to lift the debris of a nearby bombed-out building and hurled it at the clone captain. Then, turning her attention to the battlefield, she commanded several OG-9 homing spider droids through her universal tool. The droids moved into position and fired their dish-shaped turrets at the control center. The laser beams struck with devastating force, causing violent explosions that incinerated the clone soldiers attempting to establish communications, leaving no time for screams. Tan approached the spy, who was still clinging to life, and asked indifferently, "Where is the information on the Republic's secret weapon?" I don't know anything." Buday stammered weakly. "I am Severance Tan, Admiral of the Western Theater for the Confederation of Independent Systems." "Now, tell me the intelligence," Tan insisted. With great difficulty, Buday whispered, "The Hutt, Borka, on Tatooine." With those final words, he took his last breath. Vol 2, Chapter 541, A Sacrifice for Victory. The blood-red lightsaber flashed, and with a horrific scream, Jit's right hand was severed at the shoulder, his lightsaber tumbling to the ground alongside his dismembered arm. Despite his agonizing howl, he mustered his remaining strength to lift a piece of metal wreckage and hurled it at Darth Lilam, aiming to prevent her from pursuing Joel Drakas. Jit was battered and bruised, his body covered in countless traces of lightning burns, with his flesh charred in several places. A scorched scar marred his face, adding a hideous aspect to his appearance. "It's truly touching, brave Jedi Knight," Darth Lilam remarked, her voice dripping with sarcasm. She observed Joel Drakas escaping but felt no urgency. Severance Tan had informed her that their spy, Dai, was dead, but they had managed to extract the necessary information, achieving their objective. Standing over Jit, who writhed in pain, she coldly stated, "Your actions are futile. We have the information. Your life is now just a meaningless sacrifice. You despicable creatures will never comprehend the value of sacrifice for the greater good. I may die, but I leave behind a glimmer of hope for victory. I have no regrets. The Force is with me." Jit gasped out his defiance. "Aren't you afraid of death? You Jedi are all talk. Who isn't afraid of death? Death is the ultimate fate for all." Darth Lilam scoffed. As she spoke, a single tear of blood trickled from the corner of her eye, unnoticed by her. With his remaining hand, Jit fumbled inside his tunic. "Then let me show you. Death is not to be feared." He revealed a small button and pressed it, his expression turning manic. "Ha ha!" Darth Lilam, ready to deliver the final blow, halted as Jit's expression changed. She swiftly retreated over 10 meters. Meanwhile, the commander of the clone army, having just secured a victory over the Geonosians, noticed the signal from the control center and ordered, "The artillery guidance beacon detected. Open fire now." The heavy artillery on the 3 8AT all-terrain tactical walkers adjusted their aim and commenced a relentless bombardment towards the beacon's location. The high explosive shells rained down, causing a series of devastating explosions that engulfed the entire area. Amidst the chaos, Jit's laughter eerily persisted. Darth Lilim, exerting her dark side powers to their limits, narrowly escaped the blast radius. A piece of shrapnel sliced off one of her head tentacles, eliciting a scream of pain. She stumbled behind some debris, barely surviving. "Jedi Knight!" Darth Lilim roared into the epicenter of the destruction. Where the bombardment had been most intense, Jit had been obliterated. Tears of blood streamed down her face as she mistook them for her own blood, vowing vengeance. "You will pay the price." Footsteps approached from behind. Severance Tan, observing Darth Lilim's disheveled state, commented coldly, "What happened? Did you encounter a formidable opponent? Claiming to be the apprentice of the Lord Governor, yet you appear so defeated." "Humph, those Jedi," Darth Lilim began, her voice filled with a mix of anger and respect for the sacrifice she had witnessed. "They understand the power of sacrifice more than we thought." "Darth Lilim, your disdain for the Jedi Knight's tactics is noted," Darth Lilim snorted coldly, expressing her frustration. "I must eliminate 100 Jedi Knights to compensate for today's setbacks. The number of Jedi you eliminate is irrelevant to me. My concern is ensuring you fulfill the mission assigned by the Governor." Severance Tan replied with a sneer, "We must now establish contact with Tatooine. The Hutts hold the information we need." "Are we to leave just like this? Allow these Republic vermin to live?" Darth Lilim questioned angrily. "Questioning my judgment?" Tan chuckled menacingly. "You might kill 100, maybe 1,000, but I can eradicate millions." Simultaneously, an alarm blared on the bridge of the Here-class assault landing ship, the USS Maybruss. The radar operator urgently reported to the captain, "Hyperspace jump detected. Enemy battleships are approaching. Prepare for battle. Retrieve our troops immediately," the captain ordered decisively. Outside the gravitational pull of planet Seskin, a brief flash of white light preceded the arrival of 3 Apocalypse-class light cruisers from hyperspace. Without hesitation, they targeted the Maybruss and opened fire. The 344-meter-long battleships unleashed their 6 heavy turbo laser cannons, bombarding the Maybruss with a relentless barrage. Several energy blasts struck the Maybruss's shields, causing them to flicker, and 2 more hit the industrial platform. Although initially blocked by the platform's shields, the dilapidated structure's shield capacitors, suffering from neglect, failed under the onslaught. The platform's shields flickered out, leaving it defenseless. The 3 Apocalypse-class cruisers continued their relentless attack, indifferent to the platform's plight. The Maybruss returned fire, but its design, with most turrets positioned for supporting landing operations, limited its effectiveness against the cruiser's superior positioning and firepower. The Apocalypse class, designed for large-scale fleet battles, easily outmatched the Maybruss. With its shields rapidly depleting, rescuing the remaining clone troopers became an impossible task. After Jedi Knight Joel Drakas managed to evacuate a group of wounded to the battleship in a shuttle, he was forced to order a retreat, leaving over 200 clone troopers stranded on the industrial platform. Meanwhile, Severance Tan and Adra Cadis had already departed the chaos aboard their shuttle, leaving the fate of the Maybruss and its crew hanging in the balance.